So this is me on the open mic right now, Scott in commentary, and pretending to be Matthew Glazer.
Yes. Hello. Hello, hello. 聽唔聽到？1、2、3，1、2、3。
He's on the other mic now.
Yes, the English commentary is here. Okay, bye bye.
Cool. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
thanks, guys.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the final night of competition of the 2024 Tissot UCI Track Nations Cup, Hong Kong, China. We have 6 different championships to be awarded this evening. We have a great night of racing ahead: sprint racing, Keirin racing, and Omnium for the endurance lovers, and also the men's Madison. We've got some great racing coming up. I hope you can settle in and join us. Our first event of this evening is about to go out onto the track, and it will be race number 1 of the women's Omnium, and it will be the scratch race.
歡迎大家嚟到香港單車館，進行緊嘅呢就係2024 Tissot UCI 國家杯場地單車賽第3日，亦都係最後一日、最後一節嘅比賽。今日下晝呢將會有6個決賽進行。先進行嘅呢就係女子全能賽嘅捕捉賽。呢個係女子全能賽嘅第一個項目。
We just go through our start list of the women's Omnium, our qualifiers after the 2 qualifying heats this morning. We have the European champion Anita Stenberg from Norway, Victoria Velasco Fuentes from Mexico, Yukin Arate from Spain. We have Brioni Botha from New Zealand. From Uzbekistan, we have Olga Sablinskaya. From Australia, we have Kira Will. From Canada, we have Maggie Coles-Lister. From the Netherlands,
Hello and welcome to wherever you are around the world tuning in. This is the UCI Track Nations Cup, brought to you by Tissot, and we are live in Hong Kong, China. Third and final day of competition about to get underway. We've had lots of qualifying rounds this afternoon, but for the evening, the final session, starting earlier than we have the previous couple of days. But we will be kicking off with the women's Omnium scratch race, the first discipline within the 4-race event known as the Omnium. Then it's the men's turn to have the sprint semi-finals. We saw the elite women race their sprints yesterday. Emma Finucane, the world champion, coming out on top. The men get to do that today. And then we'll see the ladies coming out into the Keirin finals. Big men's Madison on tonight as well. Of course, the conclusion of this race. This is the first of the 4 for the women's Omnium, starting with the scratch race. See Kira Will, youngster, 18-year-old from Australia. And sitting just next to her, we saw Liu Jiali from China. She's the highest placed rider from last month's Omnium at the Adelaide round of the Track Nations Cup. She finished 5th in Adelaide. The other 4 riders ahead of her in Adelaide, not here in Hong Kong. Perhaps we'll see them in Milton in Canada next month. So she's one to certainly look out for. And the former world champion in this event, Yumi Kajihara from Japan, also here. So she will be certainly one to look for. 8th in the World Championships in Glasgow last year, Kajihara. 30 laps of the track for the scratch race. Pretty simple race if no laps are taken on the field. First rider across the line gets the scratch race win, but in the Omnium, the first rider across the line gets 40 points, then 38, 36, and so forth and so on. Normal scratch race, the top 10 riders might be sprinting for the final lap, but in this one, everyone in the field must do the very best they can on the final lap in that sprint to make sure that they get as high up in the standings as possible to maximise the amount of points that they can get. They'll carry that into the next event, which will be the tempo race, then the elimination, and then we finish off with the points race as the last race in the program tonight. 29 laps to go. We are underway. Steady pace, and after this event's concluded, we'll be into the men's sprint competition, and special guest co-commentator with me tonight, Matthew Glaetzer, is going to be joining me for those sprint races. So it'd be fantastic to get the insight from the former world champion, one of the world's best sprinters, not racing this final day after having ridden the Keirin yesterday, the team sprint the day before that. So great opportunity to have someone like Matthew Glaetzer to chat with through the sprints, and the women's Keirin as well, being such a specialist in those two disciplines. Nice easy tempos. We see Kira Will cruising through on the front. No attacks just yet. Very nervous riders, as always, in these early couple of races. Li Xingwing from Hong Kong in the blue colours, 3rd position, 2nd now onto the front. So the local rider, plenty of support for anyone that's been riding from Hong Kong. We have also had some youth women's and men's under 17 riders had races in the afternoon program. We will see their presentations as we have the last couple of days. They're coming up tonight as well. So great opportunity for the next generation of riders from Hong Kong to be in amongst a Nations Cup event. But for now though, the women coming around to get 24 laps to go, and fairly straightforward so far. Everyone waiting perhaps for that big final lap sprint. Kira Will once again on the front. It wasn't long before. That's how it's just an indication of how short each turn of pace has been. Nobody really wanted to spend too much time on the front at all, wasting energy. So they're quickly through, up and back down towards the rear of the peloton. Just saw a glimpse of Yumi Kajihara from Japan. Won the elimination race the other night in fine form. She had such a good finish. That's the kind of thing that she can use at the end in this scratch race. Chiroux from France with the orange helmet. Both the French with the orange helmet and the Team GB with the fluorescent yellow helmet. No rider from GB in this race here tonight, but I talk about the helmets because they introduced those fluorescent colours to help identify themselves and each other in the women's Madison racing. So smart move from both the French and the team, the British team, for those Madison events. And here's Kajihara now from Japan, swings up. Anita Stenberg is the European champion from Norway. Just trying to see where she is in the peloton, but Stenberg out there. Such a strong rider, the 31-year-old. She was also 3rd in the points race at the World Championships in Berlin back in 2020. And there she's on the front. Here we go, right on cue. Anita Stenberg in the European champions skin suit. Not known as a pure sprinter, Stenberg, but really strong and consistent over multiple disciplines. Second in the elimination the other night to Kajihara, just showing how strong she is. And as the European champion, can expect something from her throughout this Omnium. 16 laps to go as they come around now, just about to get to the halfway point. And everyone's still very fresh. Silvia Zanardi from Italy. The Azzurri, lovely deep blue colours. Bryony Botha, the New Zealand rider, another one to look out for. She's been really strong this week. I've seen a clip on social media of Bryony in the team pursuit. They were down to 3 riders in one of the training sessions, and she swung up in the middle of the bend, and there were 2 riders riding around side by side, and she went straight through the middle of them in the middle of her transition, doing a change in the team pursuit. Really quick thinking, looked very dangerous, I'm sure it was, but she knew what she was doing. Quite spectacular, showing great skills. It's Bryony Botha in the black colours. Getting close to the final 10 laps now. No attacks so far, so they are all thinking about this big mass sprint in the final lap. Maria Martins from Portugal. She was 4th in the World Championships in this discipline behind Yumi Kajihara. That was back in 2020. She's been the European scratch race champion. That was last year as well. So, scratch race format here. First discipline within the 4 races for the Omnium. So look out for Maria Martins from Portugal. See if she can replicate that form from last year's European Championships. High on the track, Stenberg. And they really have taken the pace off now as they come around to get 9 laps to go, sorry. So inside the final 10 laps now. And it is looking like a big mass sprint is going to happen. There's Martins once again from Portugal. Lara Gillespie in the green colours of Ireland, fresh off the Australian track cycling championships. Of course, she's Irish, but the entire Irish squad stayed in Australia after the Adelaide World Cup, and were also allowed to go and ride the national championships. They really dominated in the women's races there. Gillespie picking up a couple of gold medals in the Aussie champs. And now high on the track for everyone. They'll come around to get 6 laps to go. Martins doesn't want to get caught out. She's trying to drag everyone back down to the bottom. Doesn't want any last-minute attacks. And now through and up. But that has stretched the peloton a little bit. Just that move there from Maria Martins. Aline Seitz from Switzerland now. 5 to go. Of course, it's handy to win this and get the 40 points that are on offer, but you can really get caught out. If you're one of the favourites and you're in the middle of that pack and you can get boxed in, that can be a real danger for the points allocation. And have a look at this. This is a big mass sprint now. They'll come around to get 3 laps to go, and it's Gillespie from Ireland that's going to lead the way. Stenberg on the inside. So the European champs put herself in a fantastic position to be high up in the standings here. Seitz is also trying to come from behind from Switzerland. Olivia Belosaita now. Seitz in second position. And then a big move from Yumi Kajihara up around the outside. They'll come around to get the bell. And the pace is right on now. The bell sounds, and Liu Jiali in second position as they come through. Strung right out as they go down the back straight. And you see in the top three, 2 Japanese riders, so they have timed this perfectly. They've been so strong this week. And Kachihara with a really comfortable, strong and commanding performance to pick up the 40 points for winning the scratch race to open up the Omnium for her. Former world champion, she was second at the Olympic Games in this event, so no surprise to see Yumi right up there again, winning the first race for the Omnium series. Kachihara first, Uchino from Japan second. So how good is that? They've had their trade team here racing as well, so they've got the opportunity to have an extra rider in these races. So first and second for Japan. Lara Gillespie from Ireland, really strong to finish in third. And then Liu Jiali from China in fourth place. Belasaita, who did go early for that final sprint from Lithuania, she finished in fifth. So they're maximising their points going into the next event. The tempo is the next race. We'll see them come out to ride, then the elimination, and then we'll finish off with the points race. And I can now introduce, for those of you that don't know me, my name, I'm Scott McGrory, former Olympic Madison champion, but someone that is a little bit quicker than me, even when I was at my absolute best, sitting right beside me, Matthew Glaetzer. How was that? You got to sit here and just focus on what's happening on the track and watch that race.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, no, thanks for having me on with you, Scott. It's always a great experience having great commentary that I've experienced over the years with you calling many races of mine. So it's great to
back. You can come back anytime, mate.
It's awesome to see it from this perspective, and it's exciting to watch the racing. Quality scratch race there, especially from the Japanese. They've been on fire this week. They get super excited too for their team. They go nuts when they win, so it's fantastic. They've had a great week. So hopefully we can keep that quality up tonight. But coming up now is the men's sprint competition, and we got 2 Aussies going head to head, unfortunately, which means one will miss out. We've got Richo and Hoffy going head to head.
Well, we're guaranteed an Australian in the race for gold. That's what that also means.
Well, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're both Aussies, so we're not here to be biased, but we will call the racing as we see it. And this is going to be fascinating because, and you can really give us some insight. These are your friends, your teammates from the team sprint, and you were a world champion in this discipline here on this track, 2017, was it? Or?
It was in Netherlands.
Okay, Apeldoorn.
Apeldoorn, that's the one.
So, you know these guys really well. Now, Matthew Richardson, fastest qualifier, the fastest rider that we have here in Hong Kong. And Lee Hoffman, this is only, I think, the second full sprint competition he's had in something like 4 or 5 years, because he's position #1 in the team sprint. So his race, 250 metres from a standing start, that's what he's absolutely world best at. So this is unique, not just to be back in racing sprints, but so deep into the competition. He's had so many more races than he normally has in a day, Lee Hoffman.
Yeah, that's right. He's gone from one lap wonder done and home and hosed, they're not racing, to now doing a full sprint day. He's managed it really well through nationals, and this is a really good test for him up against one of the world's best sprinters in Matthew Richardson. He's a class act. Both these guys are so fast, particularly over one lap, and it'll be a showdown of who can hold their nerve and who can get the jump on the other one.
Well, both of these riders at the end of the quarterfinals were almost scrambling for the rubbish bin, as they often do, to unload their lunch. They put so much into these sprints, and it's quite entertaining, actually, especially for me as a former endurance rider, to watch how they react and almost appear as if they're going to collapse and die. Then they've got to pick themselves back up again. So this is really going to be interesting as we get into the men's semi-finals here. 2 Australians, Matthew Richardson versus Lee Hoffman. Deep into the competition, 3rd day of racing. They've had the team sprint. Richardson's had the Keirin. And so for Matthew Richardson in particular, this is a really big 3rd day with so many races in the legs. Tactical battle, Hoffman happy to make it really slow to start with.
Yeah, no surprises here with a slow start. Both being shorter-ish kind of sprinters, but it's going to ramp up pretty quickly. The first lap is always just positioning and making sure your opponent doesn't do anything tricky. And as we're coming now into the second lap, it's game on from here. So it's about pace management and making sure you keep your eyes on your opponent. Richo at the back, starting to wind up. He races on a pretty big gear, so he's looking for the underneath all the time.
High on the track now for Richardson, looking for that extra speed for free from the elevation of the velodrome here. But it's Hoffman that leads into the back straight. Richardson really quickly, shoulder to shoulder. And I think at this point, even though Hoffman has an incredible acceleration, he knows there's no chance of getting the better of Richardson. So Matthew Richardson goes one up in the best of three competition here at the men's sprint semi-finals. Not unexpected to see that. But I imagine Hoffy will come out and do something special to try and get the better of Richo next time.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see the horsepower that Richo had. Once he got up and going on that gear, just powered through. It's an immense effort, and one where you can really pay off doing one massive effort, get the jump, blast past, and then you can shut off a little bit. But Hoffy rode well there, but Richo just too strong.
Coming into the finishing straight, kicks in the clutch, coasts to the line, and for any of those millennials out there, you don't know what a clutch is in a car. It's all autos these days. But one up for Matthew Richardson, the fastest qualifier. Now, the other thing that I try to explain to people as well is the big change that's happened in sprinting in the last 10 to 15
Australians.
接住落嚟係男子爭先賽準決賽第二組，會有咧就係日本嘅太田海也對住千里大王多巴哥嘅保羅。
Move on to heat number 2 now, ladies and gentlemen, and we welcome our two competitors. Please welcome, representing Japan, this is Kaya Ota. And representing Trinidad and Tobago, Nicholas Paul. Nicholas Paul is the rider who has drawn the front spot and will roll away. Nicholas Paul also the world record holder. The fastest time set over 200 metres, 9.10. That crashed yesterday, but it doesn't seem to be affecting him today. The Japanese rider, Kaya Ota, won the sprint at the first round of the Nations Cup in Adelaide, South Australia. The two riders at the top of their game here. So head straight. Play already. Ball. Seeing what Kaya Ota has to offer. My idea is to just try and unsettle your opponent, get them to think about something that they hadn't planned for. We saw that earlier today. So a couple of the rides as Paul now starts to build up speed as they head towards the back straight. Nicholas Paul, the fastest man in the world. What can he do against Ota?
進入咧就係最後一圈啦。保羅咧仍然喺前面，太田海也咧一下咧就攝咗咧就係保羅嘅左手邊。進入咧就係最後一圈，嚟自日本嘅太田海也霸咗咧就係條黑色線。保羅咧就係盡量想追，最後入關嘅時候都仲未追到太田海也，應該咧就係追唔到咧就係佢。太田海也順利喺3盤2勝之下先勝1盤。
Kaya Ota once again. He shows tactics are one thing, but speed is the key, and he has got bundles and bundles of it. 9.926 there for Kaya Ota. He won another race today in a very similar fashion. So he goes one ride up in this semi-final series.
有能力同埋技術咧，擊敗咗咧就係先勝1盤咧，就喺千里大王多巴哥嘅保羅身上。轉頭咧我就要翻嚟咧就係第2盤嘅比賽。喺度咧就係轉一轉項目先，進行咧就係女子競輪賽嘅第2輪比賽。將會咧就係有2組 出現。
Our next event, as we move forward in our program here this evening, is the women's Keirin second round. First 3 in each heat will go in to the final 1 to 6. Gold, silver, and bronze medals are awarded. 4th, 5th, and 6th in each heat will go into the 7 to 12 final. Points available for qualification for Paris 2024. As we welcome our riders out onto the track. Hetty van der Waal from the Netherlands. We have Elena Lysenko, Emma Hinze from Germany, Miriam Vecchi from Italy, Mina Sato from Rakuten Keirin Japanese cycling team, and from China, Wang Luzhuan.
進行緊嘅呢就係女子極輪賽第2輪比賽，第一組嘅比賽。跟住 Durnie 呢將會踩3圈，3圈之後呢就俾運動員呢就係自由發揮嘅。跟住喺 Durnie 後面嘅呢就係嚟自中國隊嘅黃麗娟，喺佢後面呢就係有嚟自日本隊嘅佐藤水菜。佐藤水菜後面呢就係有藍色衫、深藍色褲，嚟自意大利嘅維斯。維斯後面呢就係有嚟自德國嘅軒斯，軒斯後面呢就係有黎新高啦。最後一名跟住嘅呢就係橙色衫、橙色頭盔、深藍色褲，嚟自荷蘭嘅凱迪。前3名嘅運動員將會進入金牌戰。輸咗個3名呢將會跌入呢就係7至12名嘅名次賽。領航車咧將會喺呢圈打走，見到咧就係佐藤水菜咧就拉開少距離咧，同埋前面嘅黃麗娟喎。
The motorbike comes out the way with 3 laps to go. It's the Chinese rider Wang Luzhuan. There's a little bit of a gap here as they all start to look at each other. Now the moves start straight away. Emma Hinze is the rider who makes sure she gets herself to the front. Now she wants to dictate terms. It's not a bad tactic here. Emma Hinze very good in a long sprint as well. Remembering you have to make the top 3 here. So if you get rolled, it doesn't really matter as long as you stay in that top 3. Miriam Vecchi, very, very good bike rider in the Keirin racing, but she's looking for a way round, as is the Netherlands rider, Hetty van der Waal. They go into the last 200 metres, and there's a couple of riders well and truly out of this at the moment, and that will surprise them. But the pace on the front from Emma Hinze, she's got Lysenko in second. They go to the line, and I think you'll find that Wang Luzhuan has got herself up for 3rd place. It's a photo finish between herself and Mina Sato. She took the inside run. As long as she stayed on the track, I think she got herself up there into 3rd place. Hinze, definitely the winner. Elena Lysenko in 2nd. And we've actually got Mina Sato. Mina Sato is the 3rd rider. Japan got the benefit of the photo finish.
入組金牌戰嘅呢就係嚟自德國嘅軒斯啦，仲有呢就係黎新高啦，同埋呢就係最後第3名衝過終點嘅呢就係佐藤水菜，影相嘅時候呢就係過咗中國隊嘅黃麗娟，獲得呢就係出賽金牌嘅資格。其餘嘅3名運動員啦，分別呢就係意大利嘅維斯啦、凱迪啦，同埋呢就係中國嘅黃麗娟啦，一陣將會出戰呢就係7至12名嘅名次賽。嚟到呢就係 第二組嘅比賽，都係6名嘅運動員爭前3嘅位置。
We move on now with heat number 2 of our women's Keirin second round as our riders come up onto the track. This is a loaded semi-final, this one, I can tell you that. We welcome from the top of the track, Sophie Friedrich. From Belgium, Nikki de Grandel. From Great Britain, Emma Finucane. From Japan, Ryu Otta. From the Netherlands, we welcome Steffi van der Piet. And from France, we welcome Mathilde Gros.
將聖士2啦，6圈嘅比賽正式開始。跟住 Danny 車第一位嘅咧就係有藍色衫白色袖，嚟自法國嘅哥斯。哥斯後面咧就係有又係橙色衫深藍色褲，嚟自荷蘭嘅雲達比爾。雲達比爾後面咧就係嚟自日本國家隊嘅太田 Ryu。太田選手後面呢，就係有英國嘅富堅尼，富堅尼後面呢，就係有淺藍色衫黑色褲，亦都係呢個項目嘅前世界冠軍，嚟自比利時嘅迪根迪里。迪根迪里後面呢，就係有現役呢個項目嘅歐洲冠軍，嚟自德國嘅費迪治。都係6名嘅運動員爭前3嘅位置。呢度亦都見到咧，就係富堅尼啦，同埋咧就係迪根迪里咧，就係拉開咗少距離啊。因為下圈咧就係 Danny 咧將會離開賽道㗎啦。
This is a nervous semi-final as they come into the home straight. Have a look at this one as the motorbike now gets out the way. Up around the outside, Sophie Friedrich, European champion. She leads the way in front of Steffi van der Piet. Nikki de Grandel, the former world champion in this event, up around the outside from Belgium. Then you have Otta as they head down the back straight now. De Grandel leads the way, but Finucane, the world sprint champion, Emma Finucane from Great Britain, gets up around the outside and she'll hear the bell. Mathilde Gros going out after her. But look at the pace of Finucane. We saw this in the sprint event as well. So comfortable, so smooth. She's a very young rider from Great Britain. She's the world champion in the sprint. She's going to win that one comfortably. Mathilde Gros will go across in second. Nikki de Grandel will go across in third as our qualifiers for now.
女子競輪賽第2輪嘅比賽，第2輪第2組，入到前3嘅運動員呢，就係由比利時嘅迪根迪利啦，法國嘅哥斯，同埋咧就係嚟自英國嘅富堅尼咧，就係順利晉級。至於咧就係費迪治、太田 Ryu，同埋咧就係荷蘭嘅雲達比爾咧，將會出戰呢一陣進行嘅7至12名名次賽。喺度咧就係又會轉一轉項目啦，又會變翻咧就係男子爭先賽嘅準決賽，都係2組，佢哋嘅第2盤比賽。
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we move back to our men's sprint semi-finals. This is heat number 1, race number 2. And we welcome back both Australians, rider number 69, Matthew Richardson, rider number 67, Lee Hoffman. And it will be Matthew Richardson to lead off this time. He is the winner of race number 1.
裁判試3圈嘅比賽又可以開始。喺前面嘅呢就係李察臣，喺後面呢就係身形高大少少67號嘅何夫曼。對上一盤嘅比賽呢，就係由李察臣呢就係贏咗呢就係何夫曼。3盤兩勝之下嘅第2盤比賽，換言之何夫曼呢就唔可以再輸㗎啦噃。過第一隻彎嘅時候咧，嗰個都係兩個車手都係踩緊咧，就係南區。速度咧就係較為節奏慢啲。過咗黑道直路嘅時候咧，就上咗藍線以上，貼近鑊頂嘅位置。李察臣都好小心啦，一路望住自己嘅右手邊、右後邊咧。睇下咧就係自己嘅隊友兼對手咧，何夫曼會喺邊度
？Absolutely, you're never disappointed with a slow first lap after a tight turnaround for sure. Just get your composure, get ready for a full commitment, full concentration to make sure you can get there. There we go. We have Lee going to the front. To try and control this race from Richo. But Richo won't mind this. Got the target now. He's sitting in the draft, sitting quite close. Conserve some energy. Now he's taking some pie.
Now out of the saddle. So Hoffman trying to go a little bit faster than he did last time coming into this final lap. So hard from the front, not knowing exactly where your opponent is. And this is a little bit of a change from the first race. Hoffman now out of the saddle, but Richardson right up side by side. Hoffman is great as in the acceleration in the saddle. Slight coming together, but that will not be looked at. Richardson comes through to claim 2 straight wins, and he will be going into the final. He'll be hoping for a little bit more of a rest before they race for gold later tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. That was tight racing in that final corner, I tell you what. But that was a fantastic race. Both boys put a really good showing on. Lee took good initiative to take the front, take control, put his pace from the front and try and control this attack. Kept Richo pretty close, but you can see how tight. They're rubbing shoulders. Richo trying to cramp him down, not take any extra room around that corner, but got the job done. Too strong around the outside.
Too strong, Matthew Richardson. He wins the semi-final against his compatriot and friend, training partner Lee Hoffman, so he'll be racing for gold. And it's going to be between Kaya Ota and Nicholas Paul. One thing that people that haven't raced track may not understand is when you are full speed down through the bend like that, rider leans on you, there's often a situation where you sort of get forced to counteract it and then you're off balance. And then the rider on the bottom looks like they've infringed and swung up the track, but they can't help it because they've lost their balance and instead of going left around the track, they end up flicking upwards and they can cause much bigger issues.
Yeah, there can be overreactions to some movements and even little flick from in front of someone that you think they're going to move higher up and then makes their opponent flare up even higher. It has caused relegations and disqualifications in the past, but that's sprint racing. It's tight, it's fast, it's furious, and you're seeing red as you're trying to come across your opponent and get the better of them, and it's close quarters actions all the time. But here we go for the second semi-final. Can Kai Ota go a clean 2 rides and go into the gold final, or can Nicholas Paul pull something out and catch Ota by surprise, use that power that he's got and make a move from the back? You can see Ota on the front this time. They swap positions from the first round, and so now Kai Ota needs to lead it out and keep a watchful eye on Nicholas Paul to make sure he can catch the move.
Heat number 2, men's sprint semi-finals. Kaya Ota one up in the best of 3, so he has one hand in the race for the gold medal, but Nicholas Paul wants to force a decider here from Trinidad and Tobago. The world record holder up against one of the sprinters on absolute form over the last 12 months or so, Kaya Ota. He won the sprint in Adelaide, the first round of the Track Nations Cup. He wants to try and do it again, and he has to beat Matthew Richardson again if he does make it through into the final. That's who he beat in Adelaide. What can we expect from Nicholas Paul?
Oh, I mean, he's committed right now. He's attacking him now. So he had some height. He's on a big gear. He's trying to get it going. Keirin was a bit late to see that. And Nicholas Paul's got a bit of an overlap on him. Can Keirin hold that lane? Now they're coming about even into the first corner of the final lap. It's a showdown. They're going neck and neck. But Keirin, you can see now, he's stretching out in front of him. He's just too strong, and Paul knows it. So he swings up. He's done. And Keirin through to the gold final.
So it was an arm wrestle into the final lap, and that arm wrestle was won by Keirin. 2 straight wins in the semi-final up against Nicholas Paul, and it's going to be a rematch from the Adelaide Track Nations Cup from a month ago. Ota versus Richardson. Ota got the better of Matthew Richardson on that occasion, and he's looking very, very good at the moment. It was a late reaction. They went so early, though, I guess, for Nicholas Paul. And I think Keirin was just hoping for maybe another quarter of a lap at least before the real attack was going to come.
He definitely wasn't expecting an attack that early from Paul, but good on Paul for making a move. You've got to do something when you may know that your chances are smaller than they'll normally be after such a tight turnaround with those 2 races. See if there's a bit of fatigue still in Ota's legs, but once he saw the move, he was able to have enough power to not allow Nicholas Paul back into that sprinter's lane, and so he could hold him off and use that speed to overrun him in the end.
That's our lineup for the medals. Lee Hoffman against Nicholas Paul for the bronze medal, and Matthew Richardson versus Keirin. Australia versus Japan in the race for gold. And I mentioned before my track endurance background, and I know anyone out there that's road rider, track endurance rider. I always chuckle when I hear the sprinters complaining about short turnarounds. I'm like, yeah, I'd love to see the sprinters on their hands and knees crawling back up onto the start line to get onto their bikes to start another bike race. I love it.
If you could experience the pain we experience, I'm sure you'll change your opinion. I'll tell you what.
That's true. Yeah.
We go to dark places to do the things we do and to put our bodies through the things that they experience. So, but no, it's a whole nother world. We're both cyclists, but we experience completely different ends of the spectrum.
And we're obviously lining up there. It'll take a little bit of time now for the ladies to get themselves onto the start line. This is the tempo race, the second event or the second discipline within the 4-discipline Omnium series. But just to do a deeper dive into that, because I have worked with the sprinters over the years, and I do understand that a pure sprinter trains their body to get an absolute maximum performance every single time they get onto the track. So whereas an endurance rider might be able to hit 80 to 90% multiple times throughout the day, whereas every single time a sprinter gets out there, it's 100% every single cell and fibre. And that's really hard, how deep a sprinter can go in one effort. That's why it's so difficult to keep coming back and trying to repeat it.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely activating every muscle to its absolute capacity every time you go out there on the bike. And we've only got a finite amount of time that we can actually have that quality of maximum effort. So that's why in the sprint race you can see that it's not just go from the gun. You've got to time that effort to make sure it's at the most valuable point in the race to maximise that 100% effort.
There we saw Yumi Kachihara from Japan, former world champion this race. Now this is the tempo. If you haven't watched a tempo race, sounds really straightforward. After the first 4 laps, then the first rider across the line every lap right through to the finish gets 1 point. If you take a lap on the field, you get 20 points. Rider with the most points in the end wins. And any riders that are on the same points or don't have any points, it comes down to the final time across the line, their placing as to where they finish in the overall standings of the tempo race. Sounds simple. It gets really confusing sometimes, though, this race.
It does sound simple, but it's so hard to race well.
Yeah, it's brutal.
It's so hard because any move off the front, all of a sudden they're getting the points. And if there's a breakaway, then the bunch is gaining nothing. So, but no one wants to be the one to do the work to bridge the gap. So it's going to be really interesting to see who can get the better of it, who can get a few laps off the front, get a few points under the belt, because it goes a long way in moving up the rankings for this Omnium.
Fantastic equipment in track cycling. And The very first bike that we did see, which is Kajihara on the top of the track on the left-hand side. I pointed this out yesterday, if not the day before as well. But when you can get a closer look at the Japanese rider's bike, you'll notice that the chain set, the drive chain and cranks are on the left-hand side of the bike, not the traditional right-hand side. It's not the first country to do that. The USA did it a couple of years ago. Then they changed bike sponsors and they've gone back to the standard right-hand side. But the actual company that manufactures the carbon fibre for most of these top-end bikes is the exact company that's making the Japanese bike. So it's made it logistically a little bit easier for them to manipulate the bike in that way. Of course, they've got the new wide forks, wide rear stays. We're seeing a lot of that now. Australians had that with the Factor bike, the British Lotus Hope bike as well. All about aerodynamics. And likewise with the chainring and crankset on the left-hand side. Increases the aerodynamic yaw angle. Apparently it's...
Is that the reason? I wasn't sure. I was thinking that it was because just keep everything going less distance through the corners. I'm not sure. That was my guess. But there could be multiple factors.
Well, I had mentioned that previously as well. So there is the idea of everything that's on the left-hand side as you lean through the velodrome. So the black line at the bottom of the track is 250 metres around. Every time that you lean inside that, you're travelling less distance, right? So the body is often going less and dragging the bike through a shorter distance, basically. So you put all the weight on the inside of the bike, and that should help to drag the bike further and faster around the tracks. There is a part of that, but it's also very much about the aerodynamics. Apparently it's quicker to have it on the inside. We'll see if that happens as we see the first attack, though. Now, they haven't gone into the sprint points just yet, but Lara Gillespie from Ireland is the first one to hear the bell. Now, she has a big enough gap to be guaranteed that she will be away for this lap, so she'll get 1 point when she comes around. And as you mentioned, Matt, the challenge is the hesitation from the peloton comes from if you try to chase her down now, you get nothing other than sore legs, and then someone else that's following you in the slipstream will then attack and take the next point.
Exactly. It's a tricky game. They've all got to play their little part, or just give her a lap and just commit, okay, she's got too far, let's just get this bunch back to the front of the race, because she's got a great gap on the field now. She can just stay out here and accumulate points if she wants to, just lap by lap, but the bunch is going quite slow now. They've almost relinquish the fact that, okay, all the points are up there, getting ticked off every time, so maybe we can just reset this and go again. This Irish move has been great. What a move from the start of the race.
And we see this in almost every Omnium. There's an attack in the first couple of laps. Now, this is the challenge. So Lara, if she's feeling strong enough, she doesn't have to gain the lap straight away. She can hang back a little bit. That's 4 laps that she's led now, so there's 4 points that she gets for that. Yeah. And she's gone straight into the peloton. Okay, so
yeah, lap up. What a move.
Yep. So now the next rider across the line, as they've realised, so smart thinking from the riders on the front of the peloton as well, because they were checking to see where Gillespie was. As soon as she made contact, bam, then we go back to the front of the peloton. Bryony Botha, though, also now trying to pick up a point, as she will. Good time trialer, good team pursuit rider, so she can do this all day. I'd love to see the sprinters come and do a tempo race.
Oh, we'd be finished already, I tell you what. They're going so fast. Yeah, you can see the race is all of a sudden lit up. As soon as you're close to the front, you've got a sniff of a point at the front of the race. And this leading bunch off the front now is looking good to share some points around lap by lap. But they can see it's getting chased down by the Japanese there. They're so strong, and they don't want to miss out on this points opportunity. They don't want to let a group of this size get too far away and slip down the orders of this Omnium.
Well, if you can hear the applause in the background, it is because Li Xingwing from Hong Kong has made it into that group in front. She picked up 1 point across the line, so she sits in equal third place at the moment. So great riding there from the young rider from Hong Kong. Now it's all come back together again.
Kira Wills got some good positioning here. She's at the front. She needs to just keep that position, not do too much work, but be up near the front of the peloton just to make sure that she can catch and move when it goes. When the bunch is up again, she can follow some wheels and try and snag a point or two in this race. But you can see 2 riders going off the front now.
And both Japanese riders. So this is fascinating. Uchino in the black colours. That's for the trade team registered for Japan. And Kajihara is out there as well. So this is fascinating. They will work together. If they can share the points each lap, they'll be happy with that. And they're almost at half a lap up on the peloton.
They've almost broken the peloton's wheel already. It's going to take a serious combined effort from the bunch to bring these two back, because you know they're going to commit together. There's not one that's going to sit up. They're committed to this move. They're going to share the points around each lap, and the bunch knows this, and the people in the bunch that need some points don't want to chase this gap down. So the easiest way to get some points now, back up, take some high on the track, bunch up as they're doing, and let these two get the lap as quick as possible to, as soon as possible, get the points back in their favour. So now soon the bunch can have some point-winning opportunity once these two riders make connection to the back of the bunch.
Well, if they are confident, and as they're doing now, you can see they have backed off, right? So there's no obligation for these riders to take the lap.
Yeah, they can just stay there, hang off the back, not join, and take every single lap of the remaining 11 laps of this race.
And the danger to this, though, now they are both very strong riders, so maybe no danger at all. But if the peloton really start to go, if they gas it, then they might not be able to bridge the gap and get the 20 points for gaining the lap.
Yeah, that is a risk. And you can see one of the Japanese has completely swung up and does not want to make connection, where the other one was tempted to do it, but then backed off as well. So some real cagey tactics going from these two Japanese riders, but you can see the bunch now. They're just needing to go. They can see there's too much waiting, and they need to make a move.
Keiji Kajihara it is. And Uchino has backed off as well, so those two riders still in the status quo. 9 laps to go. They pick up a point again. Kajihara it was that led through. Uchino, they've been sharing the laps each time, so Uchino will get the next point. And the frustration back in the peloton must be immense, perhaps only matched by the commissaires that desperately want these two riders to bridge the gap so they can get this race back together again.
In the whole field of this women's Omnium race, only 7 riders have points. So there's so many riders in here on 0 points. Kira Will from Australia has done a great job. She's got a point, so she's equal top 5. Now, it's looking like the case with these Japanese riders still at the lead of the race. It's almost going to be a finishing position, like a scratch race, as to who gets through and the rankings for this race.
Well, they have now gone onto the peloton. They realise getting close to the end of the race, the peloton's speeding up. It's hard to try and hold just off the back of them. So they have now regained into the field. They will then move up, easy on the left-hand side of the screen. So they both get their 20 points. Gillespie still sits in second place. Kajihara now in third, and we have very solid attack off the front. So 2 more riders now going off the front as we see Kajihara and Uchino go up into the top 3.
But again, only 2 riders off the front getting all the points for this race. And the bunch, again, not wanting to do much move because there's a full half lap gap to try and bridge this gap to these breakaway riders that are just ticking away the points and doing a great job for their race to elevate themselves in the ranking and try and get a good overall result in this Omnium. So it's a very isolated racing with only a few riders accumulating points in this tempo race.
Victoria Velasco from Mexico sitting in behind Bryony Botha from New Zealand. So Botha gets the point there. Velasco picked up 1, Botha with an extra 1. So she goes up to 4th place on 5 points. And her speed is a little bit too much for Velasco from Mexico. They're going to come around 2 laps to go. Another point for Botha. And she's desperately now trying to close it down. She doesn't want to wait any longer. She's trying to get this lap gain.
She desperately wants this lap. Such a boost of points will absolutely skyrocket her towards the top end of the finishing places of this race. The bell goes now. She's got 1 lap to try and catch on the back of the peloton.
She's about to get there now in the final lap. She picks up the point on the previous lap, and Botha is maybe, possibly, not too sure if she will, trying to get to the back of the field. It's up to the judges whether they determined that as a lap gain. And if it is, it's 20 points. Now the peloton are finishing things off here. Stenberg trying to be the best of the rest, and it's a real battle right down to the very last sprint, and it is throughout the peloton in this situation. Belosaita it was from Lithuania, Now, they were just going for the placings, because if the lap had been given to Botha, then Velasco, who'd been dropped by her, would have picked up that last point for going across the line in the end.
Yeah, that final sprint was very important, because that was your ranking position for that entire race for the riders that hadn't gained any points. Thankfully, our Aussie Kira Will did a great job then. Finished 7th in that race with a point, which is so valuable. Skyrockets her right up into the top 10, finishing that race, which was pretty cagey and a tricky one for most riders, because only a few got points then.
And now it has popped up that Bryony Botha was indeed given that lap gain, and she did that in the final bend, it must be said, at the end of her race. So Bryony Botha goes to 27 points, wins 1 point ahead of Tsuyuka Uchino from Japan, 24 points for Lara Gillespie from Ireland. Great ride by her. Yumi Kajihara, the former world champion, finished in 4th. They were the 4 riders that gained a lap on the field, got the 20 points bonus for that. So they were comfortably in the top 4. And it was indeed Velasco from Mexico with 3 points, finishing in 5th ahead of Liu Jiali. And Kira Will, with that 1 point that you mentioned, ends up in 7th place. So such a vital point to gain in that race.
Absolutely. I was surprised that both had got the lap in the end there. Apparently a lap gain is 3 metres off the back, but it's good, great effort.
She was in the
reward for
slipstream.
effort. Yeah, that's right. She was there. She was there. I was just very interested on that call, how that was going to go down. So, no, it's a great race and fantastic final effort for her to skyrocket herself straight into 1st place.
Yeah. And you are right. She crossed the line still maybe 2 bike lengths off, but very much within the slipstream of the peloton. It'd be a brave commissaire that wouldn't have given that one.
Oh, it sure would, yeah. There would be some disputing of that call for sure from the New Zealand team, but so great race.
After 2 disciplines within the Omnium, we can see the situation there with the Japanese riders just in an incredible situation, doing very well indeed. And a solid ride from Bryony Botha to win the tempo race. They'll be back out for the elimination, one of the most interesting races to watch on the velodrome. Race in reverse, so to speak. Focus on the back of the peloton, not the front of the peloton, and if you haven't seen one before, we'll explain that once they do come out a little bit later on. Then they finish off with the points race at the end. So the most difficult discipline in track cycling is a points race, and that's what they finish the Omnium with. And they'll be on their hands and knees by the end of that.
Absolutely, it's a big day of racing, and to finish with the hardest race is a feat in itself, and my hat goes off to all the endurance riders that do that and back up 4 complete separate races in a day and finish with an absolute brutal points race.
So the men's Madison is up next. It's 50 kilometres, 200 laps at this track, over 250 metres for 1 lap, 20 sprints in total. Now every 10 laps they sprint for points, 5, 3, 2 and 1. If you take a lap on the field, you get 20 points, and the final sprint is double points, 10, 6, 4 and 2. So plenty of opportunity to gain points, and this is the fastest bunch race from the endurance aspect with
Absolutely.
the relay effect. We've got the European champions out here from Germany, former world champions they are, in fact, the German combination of Kluger and Reinhardt. A couple of your teammates, youngsters, Blake Agnoletto and Ollie Bledden.
Yeah, they've been raring to go all week for this race. They're a great duo, and they work really well together on and off the bike. They're a great couple of guys, and I'm really excited to see how they go in this elite field. It's not going to be easy. This men's Madison can be one of the brutal races that you witness as a sprinter, just wondering how the heck they can maintain that speed for that long and to continually going full gas, because you've got a teammate. You're constantly racing, and there's not many moments where this race backs off. So it's all about positioning, making sure you work well with your team, and hope you got some good form, because it's a long race, 200 laps.
Yeah, 200 laps, and with these sprints coming every 10 laps, the old format was every 20 laps, now it's every 10. And at the speeds that they're running at, I think the World Championships last year was an average of 58 kilometres per hour.
Insane.
So those 10-lap sprints come around so quickly, and you have to set up for them multiple laps ahead because of the nature of the Madison with the changeover and the hand slings. There's several laps into a sprint that you have to get yourself into position, so it's just such an accelerated event and technically quite dangerous. So need to be very careful for the lads out there. And if you haven't seen one before, strap in, because the Madison is fascinating to watch.
Yeah, the key aspect to this race is when a teammate's coming in to change with their fellow compadre, the riders behind always have to follow the rider entering the race, because all of a sudden there's going to be a very slow rider who's just slung their partner into the race that is just an obstacle in the race. So you'll see all the riders just swinging up to the right, up the track to follow the new rider in to the race. But all these riders are now just rolling around, getting ready, waiting for the commissaires go ahead to line up into their positions. And it'll be a nice little period here just to tick the legs over, have a chat with your teammate, go over any last little points, relax the nerves or anything, and get ready for a big race, because it's an absolute doozy and a very entertaining one. Always one of my favourite races to watch. Always love the Madison. You have to pay attention though, because you leave the velodrome for a minute, or you look away, get a drink, and all of a sudden you have to then take 5 minutes to gather what's going on in the race.
That is true. Now, a bit of a tip, whenever you can see them on the screen, in these bunch races, there is always a commissaire, a race official, in light blue shirt, that will be just standing next to the finish line that points to the leader on the track. So if you do get a little bit lost, not sure where the lead rider is, or the lead team in this case, then you look down to that commissaire and he'll tell you exactly where the lead rider is, which is a lot of pressure on him, because sometimes even for the officials it gets quite confusing. They are spread all around the track.
Yeah, it's a teamwork with the officials, definitely. And picking the front of the race can be a bit confusing sometimes, even for them. So we'll do our best to try and explain it for you guys watching at home. We get the privilege of watching these guys in person, and it's an impressive display of endurance, this men's Madison. It's the ultimate, I think, test of endurance on the velodrome, and you've got a teammate that you have to fully commit with, rely on, and ride your heart out for. So it's a awesome one to watch for sheer dedication, commitment, and teamwork, this one.
The men's Madison, over 50 kilometres, 200 laps. Effectively, it's like playing chess with 180 heartbeat. You really have to think your way through these events. And again, you've got to think about what your teammate's going to do. You might have tired legs, and what you do out of the race when you're not in the peloton itself waiting to come back in is also very important. And you don't get to see that from the TV, because we're focusing on the actual peloton, what's happening in the race. When you're at the velodrome itself, you can actually look up and see what the riders, the teammates are doing that are out of the race in every moment. And they're speeding up or slowing down to try and get into the right position to come in for each of these sprints. There's so much strategy that comes into this race that you really want to be at a track to watch and understand it the best. And we roll off now. They'll come around to get the first neutral lap done. One rider lining up in the start straight and the back straight. All of the other riders, their teammates, up against the fence. And we're underway. Denmark lead through. And then their teammates have all got the opportunity to come into the race now. They don't all necessarily have to come in as soon as they
see the
cross that
Swiss
start
are going
line.
for a flyer off the gun. They've got a 10-metre lead already, and they're going quite strong here. It's a quite committed attack, and the Danes are thinking about whether they commit from the bunch as well to try and get this gap down, but the Swiss are putting their foot down straight away. Lap one, let's go, was their strategy. Attack from the start.
Alex Fogel and Valerie Thibault. And they've opened up a good gap. Nobody wants to go full gas right from the start and waste energy, unless you're trying to do what the Swiss are doing, and that's to take a lap on the field. So this is an interesting tactic that has been successful in the past. And at the moment, there is a bit of tempo in the peloton, but not a real chase.
Yeah, they're starting to wind up the tempo in the peloton, but the Swiss are fully committed to this move, and that would have influenced their warm-up too. And there's been a crash in the back straight. The Japanese is down, unfortunately, slid about 10 metres further than his bike did. The mechanics will be straight onto that, trying to get that equipment back up and running on the back straight, while the Swiss is still powering on. It's not changing their race at the moment. They're still trying to catch a lap straight off from the start of this race.
And what a crash like that does do sometimes in the peloton is just unsettle the tempo, right? So the peloton have backed off just a little bit. Now they're trying to get themselves going. And the Swiss team are into the same straight. They've just come through here in front of us, and you can see all the traffic that they've got to negate as they get back towards the rear of the peloton.
Yeah, there's only 40 metres to go, and then they were on the back of the peloton. They've done a fantastic move here, and the crash would have sort of maybe put a bit of doubt into the bunch's mind too as to what has happened. And the Swiss, they've got a lap already, and we're only 7 laps into this 200-lap Madison, and a lap up goes the Swiss team.
So they have given them the lap before they got to this first intermediate sprint. So the bell was rung for the peloton. Now the lap has been gained. They get the 20 points for that. Now the peloton will race for the 5, 3, 2 and 1.
And the Danish are strong, and they're going to take out the winner this first sprint as well.
Denmark get the 5 points. Spain will be second with 3. Then it's Mexico, third, 2 points for them. And then the European champions from Germany, Roger Kluge, came across the line to pick up the 1 solitary point. Wow, what a great start. Before the first 10 laps completed, we've got a lap gain, 20 points.
It happens quick, doesn't it? You never know what you're going to get in the men's Madison. It can be a slow start or a fast start, but generally, one way or the other, it's fast regardless. And spare a thought for the Japanese teammate that had his teammate on the ground and had to do all of that racing by himself. No rest for him while his teammate was getting back and sorted, but now he's back on the bike, he's back racing, and they can compose themselves again to try and get into this race.
When you do get the opportunity, focus towards the back of the peloton. You can see how it's already strung out back there. And there's a real elastic band effect in all races, but even more so when it comes to the Madison, with all the teams in front trying to get around each other and the changes happening. You end up going too far towards the back and the gaps are opening up. You waste so much energy just trying to bridge those gaps all the time. It's important to stay in the top half of the peloton.
Yeah, and you can see the top teams really pay attention to their positioning. They really like to stay near the front, as you can see the Aussies now heading towards the front of the race. Nice smooth move there, followed by the Spanish team.
Ollie Bledden it is, the youngster from South Australia, originally from Western Australia, now living in Adelaide. He's riding with Blake Agnoletto. This combination combined last week to win the Bendigo Madison, of course not Nations Cup level, but it's perhaps the second biggest one-day race in Australia for Madisons on the domestic scene outside of the national championships. So they know each other well. They rode the Jakarta Nations Cup together for the first time at the international level. It was a bit of a shock to the system. They certainly have improved a lot in terms of the last 12 months. Big move now from Denmark. And the former Olympic champion, Lassalette, has really put the pressure down now, and there's not too far from the next sprint. So 182 laps to go. They'll get the bell the next time around. And Denmark, they've done this to win world championships before. He's a former world Madison champion, Lasse. And they come through now for the second of the intermediate sprints. Germany, the European champions, with Reinhardt in second position. So a real battle between teams that have been in the mix at the World Championships, winning gold before, and Australia trying to come up around the outside to match them both or beat them, as they will. It's a real race down to the line. I think Denmark may have held on for 5. Australia finishing second, then it was Germany and New Zealand. Now, I haven't mentioned New Zealand yet. They won in Adelaide last month in the Madison, and they were third at the World Championships last year. So Campbell Stewart and Aaron Gate, who won the Omnium last night, they are a super team to look out for.
Yeah, absolutely. They're always a quality side, and Aaron Gate rode into that Omnium yesterday really well. He dominated the points race, and this is a team points race, so this will bode very well for him. He'll be knowing how to race this. He knows he's on good legs. So the Kiwi team are definitely a team to watch out for, always in amongst it, and not afraid to go for a move. As we see this Spanish team go through for a turn on the front, as the bunch has a bit of control to it at the moment. There's
Spanish are ones to watch out for. They've been second and third at the World Championships. That was back in 2016 and 2018. Not a team that typically features in these sprints that much, but they are both strong combination, as Torres and Mora. So they'll be looking to try and gain some laps.
Yeah, you do have that combination of riders that love taking laps and riders that love sprinting. Sometimes you have a bit of a combination of both, and one of your teammates is a better sprinter than the other, but you always need that combination because it's so fast, but there's always sprints to be had.
Always a constant fight for position. 174 laps to go. They're already thinking about this next intermediate sprint, and Denmark have won the first 2. Switzerland with the lap gain just before that first sprint. Denmark won it. And they came back and backed that up with another win. So they're showing some really good form, as you would expect from a team that have won the World Championships previously.
Interestingly, the European champions of Germany, Roger Kluge, I believe that is, isn't wearing an aero helmet. That's just a normal road helmet. You don't see that very often in
He's an old school roadie. He's an old school roadie.
Yeah, he doesn't want to change up his ways. He loves that ventilation, and why not? It's a long race, and he can back his legs in.
Now, those of you that can remember Sean Kelly, perhaps the last of the superstars to go to the clipless pedals, he stayed with the toe straps and clips for the longest period of time into the third of the intermediate sprints, and it is the German team. It's Theo Reinhardt that goes down the back straight, the European Championship colours. And he comes into the final straight, gets the 5 points, and there we see the Spanish team. The Spanish team may have pipped Chetcha for second, make a great change off the back of that as well.
And you can just see that the sprint there has stretched the bunch out. There's a few gaps forming. You've got to be careful that a bunch like this out the front doesn't go off the front and take a lap on the bunch. Slowly they try and close up that gap, and now all come together, get ready for another attack or get ready for positioning for that next sprint, because 10 laps goes by very quickly in this race, but everyone's just holding stations at the moment, all together, just trying to keep a good position.
So Spain did pick up the second place there, just over Chetcha. And that is, as you say, when the sprints are happening, obviously they're going absolutely maximum. If you're sitting 6th, 7th, 8th position, you know you're not going to get points, so you don't want to put in a huge effort. So you're trying to save energy. But then if the gaps start to open up too much, all you do is end up wasting energy in bridging the gaps. And you look at the back of the peloton, look how high they're racing as well, because they all fan up the track to go over the top of the team that's changing in front of them. So they end up doing almost twice the distance at the end of this race by riding so high around the bends if you're too far back.
Yeah, and you can see it's bunched up now, but the Kiwis are on the fence, and they may flow through to the front of this race.
Ooh.
Gee, there's some tight moments in there with a bunch condensing and people trying to do changes. It was a bit messy there for a second. A few teams almost missed it, but the Kiwis are on the front now. We've got 5 laps to the next sprint, coming into 4 now, and they're not wanting to give that position up too easily because it takes so much work to get to the front. Once you're there, it's not too bad to hold it because you've got a teammate in a couple of laps that you'll join and sling them into the race to take over.
163. And New Zealand, they've gone early to get out of the traffic at the back of the peloton, and now they are lobbed on the front. Aaron Gate, it was Campbell Stewart that made the big move around the outside to get to this position, and Gate is just sitting at 95% the tempo here. They'll get the bell the next time around. He'll start looking for Stewart. Stewart's about to come in down the back straight. It'll be a long sprint for the Kiwis. This has been a multiple lap effort to try and pick up the maximum points here. 161 to go. New Zealand, Campbell Stewart goes through. Team Bridgestone from Japan in second position. They just go past the team from Israel that have been lapped. They'll do minus 20 points for them. And after a good 5 lap effort from New Zealand, they do get the 5 points for it. So they get the points they wanted, but at what cost is always the question.
Yeah, that's right. That was a big controlled wind-up of pace there to get the bunch sprint, but they're wondering whether there's a move to be had with Team Bridgestone continuing off the front. We got Switzerland as well joining this move with Australia in 4th place, trying to bridge that gap to get on the Swiss's wheel to be in the position to get in a breakaway move. But we got the powerhouse of Roger Kluge of Germany not willing to let this move go. He's going to be a part of it. He's European champion for a reason and is closing down this gap to make sure that the breakaway doesn't get away with him not in it.
Australia looking to close it down in 3rd position, but it was the New Zealanders, once they saw that opportunity, the Bridgestone were happy to go on with it. Aaron Gate absolutely put the pedal to the metal. Another change from them. Big stretch of the arms there from the New Zealanders. And Campbell Stewart now comes in at 1:56 to go.
I think we're at a really important stage of the race here because the pace is on and the bunch is pressured. If anyone sits up, or you can see the front of the race now taking some height, they can see the fair few riders behind them. They're not willing to commit to the move just yet. They know it's a long race. They tried, they had a little bit of a dig, but you can see now a team going off the front, the counter punch, see if this team can go solo and see what sort of reaction comes from the bunch behind.
Austria it is. Rafael Kokas and Max Schmidbauer. So it's always the right opportunity, isn't it, to attack after the pace has been hot, but you're also fatigued because the pace was so hot. So you've got to be very smart, but also strong to go on these attacks.
That's right. This would have been a team that was sitting in the wheels, getting towed along, and then once the bunch got together again, they sought their opportunity. But you can see the New Zealanders, they're not wanting to be out of any move. The Japanese cover them off. But the Austrians, they're going strong. They've committed to this move. They've got a nice tempo going. The teammate comes down to change now as they swap turns. But the bunch has got a decent turn of pace. They're working well together and not letting this Austrian team get too much of a gap on the field. But the Austrians are looking good for this sprint to get 5 points.
They will hold on to get the 5 points. It has been a massive effort by the Austrian duo. They'll get the 5 points at least, but there is some big gaps opening up as Spain come through for second. Then it's Japan and New Zealand, and there are big gaps. They won't hesitate. These teams off the front will continue to keep the pressure on because there's a real opportunity that the race can blow to pieces.
Yeah, that's right. You can see the pressure in the field. Everyone's strung out. These attacks are really putting people under the pump, and there's going to be a break here. You've got to make sure that you're in the front half, and there's a solid 25-metre gap that the bunch is split between, and the pace is really sort of coming out of the front half, though, so it's looking like it'll get back together. But the Austrians are still enjoying that success of that sprint. They're slotting in and trying to conserve some energy after that solid effort.
So as they've now come back together, you can see that it was the Australian team that bridged the gap. Sitting on their wheel were the European champions from Germany, Roger Kluge. So even though the Germans were caught in the second group, they didn't waste any energy. It cost them nothing to come back to the front. So keep an eye on what happens now with the Germans. They got out of jail there because they were caught in the second group, but the Aussies are the ones that had to close it down.
Yeah, it's so important to use the wheels that are in front of you. If you can get another team to do the work, push the win for you, and you can tow along for the ride, then absolutely go and take it because it's a long race, and any efficient move that you make in the race pays off dividends in the back half when it really matters.
And you may wonder, well, how do you do that? How do you have other people do the job for you? But that is also some of the more intelligent, most race-savvy riders and teams are able to manipulate the race sometimes to their own advantage. So this race, while it's about picking up the most points, it's also about trying to work out where to save energy so that you don't blow up in the back end of the event. And that's a real craft. It's something you have to learn over a long period of time. The Germans know how to do it, the Danish also, and the Kiwis have learnt really quickly over the last couple of years likewise.
And the Kiwis are looking like they're wanting to put some more pressure on the field. They were like, this is too slow. Let's get this going again.
So 1:42 to go, which means the next sprint will come around this time, and they won't do another change now, New Zealand. So Campbell Stewart has changed over to Aaron Gate. But Gate will have to do this entire final lap now for the points on his own before he sees Campbell Stewart again. Spain make the change, but the gap might be too big for them to run Aaron Gate down. Germany in third, then it's Australia for another point. Here comes Spain. They are going to try and get it off the back of that change, the extra speed, and they get the 5 points. So a tough one for Aaron Gate. It's a long sprint for him, but at least he picks up 3 points for second.
That's right. They're vital points, and you put an effort in like that, at least get top 2. Even if it's not the 5 points, 3 points still goes a long way in this race. And just keep chipping away. If you get a few points every other sprint, it goes a long way because there's 20 sprints, and it all adds up at the end of this.
And immediately, as we see the confirmation, Spain, New Zealand, Germany and Australia, Denmark on the counter-attack straight away. Lasse Leth, formerly Lasse Hansen, married Julie Lett and took her surname. So Lasse Leth, the former Olympic champion, or the Olympic champion, I should say, and world champion in the team pursuit at the moment, off the front, absolutely driving it. Now Robin Skiveld being chased down by Spain. Germany sense the danger on the front of the peloton. So New Zealand, after that big sprint effort, at least they get to follow in second position. So Aaron Gate saving a little bit of energy by being in the slipstream of the European champs.
But you can tell we're always calling the same countries near the front of the field, aren't we?
Yep.
It's always the Danes, the Spanish, the Germans, the Kiwis. And you can tell why they're such a class team, because they're always near the front. They're always near the moves. They can close down the threats when they come, and they can take an opportunity when they see it. It goes a long way in this race to be near the front of the field, but not pushing the wind the whole time. It's classy positioning, and they're always there ready to make their move.
And for a team like Denmark that went on the attack then, they won the first 2 sprints, so they're still in the hunt, sitting equal 3rd position. And they made the big effort between sprints. It may come to nothing as it's 133 laps to go, but if you go quick enough, and if all the teams that are chasing behind are not hard on the wheel in front of them, they're expending the same amount of energy. So the key there is to really attack hard, make everyone chase really, really hard, and I guess they're all having to work just as hard as you are off the front. They remain on the front though. They'll get the bell the next time they come around, and it will be Skivelt that will come to the bell. 131 laps to go. Spain, Germany and New Zealand up over the top. So it's Aaron Gate that will come over and around the outside. Really tight for Spain to get the change in just in time as Gate went through underneath. And Aaron Gate from New Zealand. Bronze medal in the World Championships, Madison, last year. He is the World Points Race champ. Picks up some more points again. What a comeback it was in the Omnium last night from Aaron Gate.
Oh, fantastic.
Incredible effort. And then you've got to back it up again into Madison today.
Yeah, but it's Aaron Gate. He can do it. He's done it all before. He's an absolute diesel, and once he gets going, there's no stopping him.
Aero helmet with the mullet flapping out the back of the aero helmet. So there's the pros and cons. Put the aero helmet on, and then the not very aero mullet hair flying out the back.
It works for him though. They say look good, feel good, go good, and that's part of his feel good. Get those locks flowing out the back of that aero helmet, and yeah, it's definitely not slowing him down at this point.
France now on the move. Now, the nation of France, in terms of international Madison racing, incredibly well credentialed, but this is a new, young outfit for France.
And they're the team with the fluoro helmet that you were mentioning earlier. They can easily spot their teammate in the bunch, even though they're now isolated in the breakaway. It's really one of those things, those small details that makes the race go a bit smoother. If you don't miss a change throughout the whole race, it's a great executed race. So you can see now they had a strong move off the front. They've almost got half a lap on the bunch, and they've got 5 laps before another sprint. So they're likely to hold on for at least the sprint points, depending on how this bunch reacts to this move. But the bunch isn't really going yet. The French have got a great gap here. If they can maintain this pace and keep this steady breakaway, then they've got a chance of taking a lap, depending on how ferocious the bunch want to chase them down as the Kiwis flow to the front. But the French are going strong. Got the solid tempo going, and they're committed to this. They're at least going to get this sprint point. They're only 3 laps away from claiming 5 points.
They're down in equal 12th place at the moment, no points, which is perhaps the reason the top favourite teams have allowed them some leeway. They weren't too focused on the French, but they'll have to be if they gain this lap, because they're going to put themselves right back up in the hunt for the medals. They will definitely pick up the next 5-point sprint, but they are almost in the same straight as the peloton now as they come around to get 121 laps to go. So the bell sounds for the French as they come through. The peloton will hear it as well. They'll also increase their speed for this next sprint. So that also makes it really tough for the French to try and close the gap.
Yeah, that's right. The French are definitely going to take the 5 points here, but they're hoping after the bunch finishes their sprint, that the bunch sits up, gives them another opportunity to close down that gap to finish off this lap take, which is a serious possibility as long as the bunch doesn't keep on with this sprint pace that they're going to finish through. The French are coming in with a new, fresh teammate, trying to finish off this lap take, but they're looking a little bit fatigued. Can they get this lap done? Because the peloton, I tell you what, they're looking like they're starting to wind up and wanting to deny the French this lap.
Well, if they don't gain the lap, which is actually starting to look less likely now, they can thank New Zealand, because they have powered off the front of the bunch in that last sprint, and the gap has opened right back up again. So this is going to be a real challenge now as we see the French team. They've caught the team from the United States. The US won't give them any help whatsoever. Not that they could, I don't think, at the moment. They're so fatigued. But the race is really blowing apart behind the French. New Zealand have really put everyone under pressure. Austria are chasing them as well. Mexico off the front of the peloton. Japan, the Bridgestone team. Then it's Denmark, but they're all on their own chasing each other. Spread all around the track, typical at Madison's at this level.
That's right, you've got to pay attention because it happens quick. All of a sudden, the French thought they were going to take a lap, but then the bunch wound up thanks to Aaron Gate and Campbell Stewart, and they're getting hunted down now. They've lost about 80 metres of their gap that they did have, and Aaron Gate now is leading the chase with the Austrian team to try and bring these French back.
So it's Scott McCrory along with Matthew Glaetzer, the former sprint world champion, calling all the action here, and we'll try and decipher as much as possible. You're only getting to see a limited amount of the track, obviously, through this monitor. But there are our leaders from France that are desperately trying to hold on. They're not too far, though. Although, while New Zealand have put in the big effort behind them, that has dragged another 5 teams to come out after those favourites. So there might be a bit of a slowing down. Just don't know if there's any energy left in the legs of France to then get some sort of advantage from that, because we're not too far from the next sprint.
Yeah, the French and the American team are definitely travelling slower than the bunch behind them. Can they hang on for one more lap as they come into the bell for the sprint now? They've put in such a big effort. They tried to get the lap. They've got one sprint. Can they get a second? Can they hold off? Because we've got the European Championships honing down, champions, sorry, from Germany that are closing down in on them. But they are looking like they're going to take the 5 points.
It is indeed.
They've got 10 points for that big effort off the front. I think they'll be quite satisfied with that. They know they're not going to take the lap now. Well, there's more riders joining them.
It has moved them up into 6th place. And the European champs closed that one down. Now let's see what happens, because that last 10 or 12 laps was absolutely frenetic. Frantic pace set. Everyone is really starting to hurt. Okay.
And we're not even halfway.
We have not got to the halfway
Not even
point.
halfway.
Let's see what attacks might come now. Who has the energy to go on with it? We know New Zealand, every time there's a chance they want to go on the attack, but they can't make every attack, surely.
Oh, you never know with those boys. They cannot help themselves. But it's a long race. The Kiwis definitely have put themselves in a good position, but sitting 2nd place, and they're not going to drop back too far down the field. You can see them about mid-pack on the French wheel, just biding their time before another vicious attack, because when they go, they seriously go. They've got such a turn of speed. But you can see the European champion of Roger Kluger just holding pace on the front. We've got a bit of a steadier pace now in the bunch as the riders recover, freshen up a bit. They've only 5 laps away from the next sprint, so they're going to start thinking about positioning for this next sprint, where their teammate is, how far up in the bunch they are, and whether they want to contest this sprint after that big effort that they've just done.
This is perhaps the slowest we've seen the peloton for more than, say, 2 laps. They've really, it hurt. We're just getting to the halfway point. I'd like to know what the average speed is, because it didn't last very long. Denmark have gone on the attack again. New Zealand very quick to shut this down. The teams that have the credentials continue to come to the front. Spain, Portugal, we haven't seen too much from them. They do have the world Omnium champion in Leitao, but they were off the back a little bit, struggling earlier on, so it's good to see Portugal stretching to get to the change there. And I don't know if you saw it on the camera, but there was a little bit of an apology from Leitao for not coming down low enough and putting his teammate under a bit of pressure.
Looks like the Spanish here are really keen to put themselves in a good position to get some points here. They're on the front, but the Kiwis are coming around. Campbell Stewart isn't going to allow them to take the win. He's not wanting to get out of the action, and he's wanting to hunt down that 5 points, see if he can hold on from this Spanish team in his wheel, but it looks like it's too fast. He's going to get the 5 points. Spanish 3, Portugal 2.
And they just make the change after the finish line. So I'll give you a bit of insight in that situation. Campbell Stewart obviously won the sprint, but Aaron Gate made sure he rode quick enough to do the change after the finish line, because if they did that change before the finish line, the Spanish during the change could have come over the top to pick up the points. There is a real deceleration in the middle of a changeover before you get the extra hand-sling speed and acceleration off the back of it. So smart thinking from Aaron to make sure the change was going to happen after the finish line.
Yeah, and that goes both ways. That each teammate looks at the position of where their rider is on the track, and you can either take a high line when you're not in the race, right on the fence, and try and get to your teammate quicker, or you can take a lower line and ride a little bit quicker and try and time your change to a crucial part of the race.
This would be the first Madison you've commentated, I'd say, Matty Glazer.
Definitely. I've watched quite a few.
Yeah.
I love watching the race, and it's great to talk about it and call the action as it happens, as the Aussies are slowly moving up to the front of the field to make sure they don't get caught out by any move. The Portugal team are wanting to make. They're having a strong move from the front. They've got a 20-metre lead already. They're going at speed too. They're not holding back much with this one. This is a nice committed move off the front. Can they get someone to go with them to have a nice teammate, which they can? The team of Bridgestone looks like they're chasing it down. They're going to be an interesting team if they form up with this one. They need to make a move. Really
solid effort here from Portugal. But while Bridgestone are so far behind, once they do get there, if they do indeed actually catch Portugal in front, they've expended so much energy. They may not be able to contribute to the chase too much at 93 laps to go. New Zealand again on the attack. There they go. They flash through underneath. So Aaron Gate and Campbell Stewart are really trying to strangle this race. They are showing so much strength as we see Portugal come through. The next time they come around, they'll get the bell for the next sprint. So Portugal should be able to pick up some points. Bridgestone also, because New Zealand, they are coming, but they probably won't get there in time for this maximum points offering.
Yeah, that's right. Portugal will take the bell. They've only got one lap to go. Can they hold on? They've got Bridgestone chasing them down. They're definitely going to get the sprint. It's whether it's going to be an effort that kicks on and can take a lap, but it's definitely got the attention of the field further back. We've got Roger Kluger looking like he's going to chase it down behind the Kiwi team as well. But Portugal take the 5 points. Team Bridgestone will take the 3. Elevate their standing in the race, but you can see the European champions just denied that move from becoming a serious one. But they've still got a decent gap on the bunch. It's not finished yet. As you can see, the points come up there. 5 for Portugal, 3 for Team Bridgestone, and so on and so forth. But it's all looking like it might come back together again.
There is a chance for Portugal if they can just keep the tempo. I'm not sure they've got the legs to continue on with it, because the peloton have, as you can see, regrouped. So the pace will come off a little bit if there's no more attack.
It was such a fast attack that it's hard to maintain. Although they've just done a sling, and this rider has got some energy to him. He hasn't definitely given up. It's
Omnium World Champion.
Well, that's right. Oh, this guy. Yeah, I was watching him in the Omnium. Impressive stuff.
This bloke goes all right.
Yeah, he's not too bad, this guy. He's a world champ. My goodness, what am I saying? So we've got the Denmark team, though, trying to chase him down from the bunch, trying to break away and form up a formidable partnership with this Portuguese team to see if they can take a lap together.
So Portugal still out there on front. Luri Leitao putting in an incredible attack here, and Matthias, they were 4th at the European Championships early this year in January. So they are a well-credentialed team, but they are racing against the entire peloton. And there's still the attack from Denmark that's behind them. Germany have gone out after them as well. There you go, Denmark, Germany, and then it's New Zealand once again leading the peloton. So this may come to nothing, because the Kiwis are desperately trying to shut down, not necessarily Portugal, but they're chasing down Denmark and Germany.
Yeah, there's definitely some action further back in the bunch from these Portuguese riders making this strong move off the front, which they're maintaining quite well. I thought they were going to get caught by the bunch, but they kept at it, and that strong move by the world champion has just enabled them to keep a gap and come into this final lap now to try and get another 5 points for their point tally as the Denmark team tries to chase them down.
They will get the 5. The gap's big enough, and you can see the race that's happening behind. Germany going over the top of Denmark. They'll pick up the 3 points. New Zealand is still there. Behind them is Japan and Mexico. So there they go through. It's Germany picking up 3 points. But Luri Leitao, he is not holding off. He's continuing to power down Matthias, Joel Matthias and Luri Leitao from Portugal. Finally, they're about to get some company, and it's going to be Japan. So we've got to say kudos to the Japanese team. Through all of this carnage and the incredible high speed, the Japanese team are going to be the first ones to get to Portugal. They also have Germany with them. So 3 teams now off the front. Big gap back to Denmark, New Zealand and Mexico. And the peloton, the rest of the riders out here, in big danger of being caught and going a lap, or 20 points to all these riders that will gain a lap on them.
Yeah, it's my good friend Aya Hashimoto from Japan in this front group, teaming up with Roger Kluger and the Portuguese rider. It's a fantastic team that they can work together, these three countries, to try and get that gap. But you've got the Kiwis honing in on their back wheel. They know that they're not alone, and they're not fully committed to it because they know there's other riders with them. It's looking like there's going to be a few riders at the front here. You've got 6 countries having a good gap on the main bunch, which is completely splintered at this point. His teammate has just been slung in and is going for a move off the front again from this breakaway group. So they are committed to take a lap, this Japanese team. They're not holding anything back. They're seeing this as their opportunity to get some points, and they're coming in for a change with a teammate as they're slinging Aya Hashimoto back into the race as the Kiwis are trying to chase this move down.
So Kuboki it was that changed to Hashimoto at 73 laps to go. New Zealand, Mexico, they're riding well in the second half of this race, the Mexicans. Then it's Germany in the European Championship colours. And the ones that started this whole thing, Portugal, they have been caught by these other teams, but they're sticking with them. So they're showing some character to stay with this group off the front. Denmark are about to bridge onto the back. Now behind them, they've just come under the shot there, was Spain. They jumped out of what's left of the peloton and are desperately trying to reach this group out in front. Next sprint coming on, and it's Roger Kluger. He'll come through. You look around the track to see where his teammate is. He's not going to be able to change him before the sprint. So Leitao from Portugal, shoulder to shoulder up against the big German, Roger Kluger, 2-time world Madison champion, but the world Omnium champ comes over to get the 5 points. Another 2 points for New Zealand. Japan getting 1. Denmark, Mexico and Spain, again, through that sprint, under some pressure.
Yeah, this front field are really absolutely putting the sword to the bunch, and it's going to be a fight here for the bunch to hang on, because this front team, you can see Aaron Gate on the front of this group just powering on, making sure that this group is continuing to put pressure on and be at the front of the race, because they know as hard as they can make this race, the better it is going to be for them, because they're feeling good, they're off the front, they're making moves, they're getting points, and you can see the Japanese rider on the front doing his bit, trying to dodge the riders that are coming up slow after their changes.
Well, the only lap gain that has happened was 7 laps into the race. That was Switzerland. We have not seen them since. They still sit in second position, but they are in what is left of the peloton and about to get caught perhaps from this lead group. So Switzerland started really well. Then they have been invisible to this point. Let's see if they can do something and salvage a great top spot for them by the end of this.
Yeah, it just goes to show the cost of an early effort, but they're still at the top. They can still recover from here, sit in, get some recovery time, and hopefully this race comes back to them, but it's still strong on the front, the Japanese team powering on with the Kiwis holding their wheel, and the Kiwis are going on with it. Some teams are swinging up and letting the Kiwis get a gap on them.
Well, they've got Mexico just out in front, who jumped away from that lead group. Now, New Zealand are about to catch Mexico.
At some speed too, I think he's going to go straight past him. He's going to kick on with this Gatey, and there's 3 laps to the next sprint. So he's sniffing some points here, get some distance between him and the front group, get the 5 points, and maybe get a lap.
So New Zealand once again on the attack. 62 laps to go. Spain chasing them, Japan, then it's Mexico, Portugal, Germany and Denmark. That is the lead group behind New Zealand, and with the next bell coming at 61 laps to go, the speed of Campbell Stewart, he's about to catch a group that contains Italy, Australia, Belgium and Team Bridgestone from Japan. They are just around the corner. But look at this.
But the Spanish team, is he going to spoil the party?
He does. Great little comeback from Spain. So I did say they're a team that not necessarily super quick in the sprints, but when you get to this situation where it has just been an absolute smash fest, it's really who has the best legs, and Spain showing that they're coming on strong towards the end of this. So they've caught that group that I just mentioned in front, and it's still Mexico who were off the front. They're behind this group, and they're joined by Denmark, desperately trying to keep themselves in contention. There they are. So with the New Zealand and Spain-led group, along with Portugal, Japan and Germany, they have made contact with the peloton. Now behind them, the leaders on the track, even though they've been dropped by those riders I just mentioned, is Mexico and Denmark. So there's a lap gain. 20 points going to the total of all of those teams I just mentioned. And Denmark and Mexico desperately trying to get to the back of the peloton now. They are at the top of the picture. Peloton comes through. We'll see Denmark and Mexico appear almost at the back of the shot. There they are. I just saw Denmark. And they should be able to get through. So Denmark, it's left that is about to rejoin the peloton. There he is. Whew, bit of a scramble there from the Danes, but they have got their lap gain. There's another 20 points that they'll get for that.
Yeah, you don't want to have all that effort wasted and not get the lap when you're so close. It was a frantic 20 laps there, and it was benefited by those teams that took it on, maintained the front position at the front group, and the Kiwis to keep it driving too, because some teams were wanting to sit up, and so multiple teams got a lap because of it, and the French now are moving to the front to keep the pressure on the field.
So as you see what they've done there with the Tissot timing is rather than giving 20 points to those teams that took a lap, because it was roughly half the peloton, if not a bit more, they've just docked 20 points from all of those teams that they caught. So 52 laps to go as they come around. Spain really starting to come strong here, up into second position. New Zealand lead the way. 6-point advantage that they have, but Spain are starting to show some real strength late in this race.
And they're on the front too, driving the pace again. So they're not letting people rest. They're wanting to get into this sprint, try and get another 5 points as the French try and chase them down in that fluoro orange helmet. But the Kiwis, they're not going to let them steal the points away from them. They've got such a strong turn of speed as they come around the final corner. Can he get the 5 points? It'll be New Zealand, France and Spain for the top 3 positions there.
Well, Albert Torres from Spain will be really disappointed that the French popped over the top to pick up the extra point as well. So they really are racing against New Zealand to the medals. France are down in 9th place, minus 7 points, but it's a race. You're in it. You're going to keep going for the points.
And there's only 49 laps to go. So it's at this point that they're really identifying who their main threats are, who are the countries that they need to defend from and attack and get points to bridge the gap to their competitors, or to defend to make sure they don't get overtaken. So you can see New Zealand on top and Spain wanting to close that gap. So New Zealand denied any advantage from that sprint, from that point gain from Spain, and extended their lead.
So 7 teams have separated themselves from the rest of the field. The rest of all from 8th, Switzerland, all the way down to the United States, being docked 20 points for losing a lap to those top 7 teams. New Zealand, Spain, Germany, Portugal, Denmark, Japan and Mexico. Japan and Mexico, 5 and 4 points for them. A lot of work for them if they're going to try and get themselves up onto the podium. Bronze medal position for now, held by Germany. Spain in silver, and it's New Zealand, after winning last round in Adelaide, looking to go back-to-back with victories in the men's Madison.
Yeah, you can see on the points table, New Zealand is just stretching their lead a bit. It's quite tight for 2nd, 3rd and 4th position. The top 5, it's anyone's game, but the Kiwis are just showing their dominance and always getting in the points, making sure that they're in the move as the Czech team make a move off the front to see if they can put some pressure on this field and try and get some points towards their name, as there's only 3 laps until the next sprint. They're committing to this. They're winding up the pace, actually, but we got this team from Spain trying to chase them down, and the French team as well, with the Germans following in their wheel. We got the Aussies in the bunch too, so we got the Czech team going hard. There's only 2 laps to go now before the bell, and we got the Spanish team and the French trying to deny them that, but they're fully committed to this.
They are fully committed. Denis Rukovac and Jan Vonnes from Czechia. I mentioned the Bendigo Madison earlier. These guys were riding that as well. They've just come over from Australia. They are down, though, minus points, minus 18. They'll pick up these 5 points. And Spain will get 2nd place across the line. The European champions, Germany, will pick up 3rd. And the gaps are opening up a little bit. It's France, Australia, then Portugal, Japan. Trying to find where
crucially, New Zealand didn't feature in that sprint.
No.
And they're mid-pack. So they're following the wheel of the Danes and just allowing the Danes to do the work to bring them back into this fold here after that sprint.
So while the other teams I mentioned were going for that sprint, New Zealand, hard on the wheel of Denmark, they actually got a little bit of rest in that period. They're in a commanding position, 6 points. Still a lot of points to come. Double points in the final sprint, remember, 10, 6, 4 and 2. But it's just handy for New Zealand to get these little moments of recovery, which is what they had, even though everyone would seem to be full gas through that sprint. They had a little bit of recovery that time, the New Zealanders.
Yeah, they definitely cashed in their advantage there to not need to go for that sprint. Even though the Spanish did close down on them with points, they're still a 6-point lead buffer. So they still have a points win plus a point up their sleeve to play with. But that's not much in this race because anything can happen and it unfolds very quickly as the bunch now just settles into a comfy pace. No real attacks just yet. I think they need a breather. There's 36 laps to go. They've been absolutely charging this whole race. So it's now who is feeling like they're the ones to make the next move here.
Comfy pace, says Matthew Glaetzer. I tell you what.
Looks comfy from the commentary box, I tell you what.
Yeah, when you get this deep into a Madison Nations Cup, I tell you what, it's not that comfy. But yeah, you're right. This is we've only had a couple of moments of real pause for these riders to just take a deep breath. And that's over again because Japan on the attack. And they're in a strong position, sitting in 6th overall. They have been showing themselves. They just haven't been nailing the sprints. Now they've got an opportunity with 33 laps to go to pick up some points here. And will there be hesitation behind? That's the big question. They might be able to gain a lap here. I'm sure New Zealand will be trying to do their best to make sure that does not happen.
It's at this point of the race where everyone's hurting. It's who's hurting the least. And this Japanese team are taking this advantage and they're trying to bridge this gap, see if they can get a points race. With this 5-point win for this next sprint, they take the bell now, and they're looking strong. They've got a good gap to the bunch behind, and this will then jump them up, close the gap to Denmark because they're 10 points off of them. So they desperately need these points, but they really need a lap to get back into contention of the medals. As they come through now, take the 5 points, but they keep going. They're not stopping at the points. They need that lap to get back into medal contention.
So Germany finished 2nd, New Zealand 3rd. Now the big question, because they did accelerate, of course, for that 2nd and 3rd position for that sprint. Japan are forging ahead out in front. Will the peloton hesitate? Will the top team start looking at each other to say, well, come on, how about you help me chase the Japanese? Everyone's going to look at the New Zealanders now. You've shown us how strong you are. You chase the Japanese team down. And there is a real moment of hesitation here, Matty, because Japan, they can look, as they look across the track, it's Aya Hashimoto. You can see that they are now half a lap up to the back of the peloton. This lap gain, the 20 points on offer, it's a real possibility now.
Absolutely, and it's the Germans that have to take this fight because Japan will overtake them with 20 points. It'll take them to 30 points and in the bronze medal position. So Germany are really under the pump. They cannot afford to let this Japanese team take the lap, which they're about to do. They're getting close, but there's so many people in the way, and they missed the change too. So his teammate didn't know he was coming. There was chaos there. So this is really going to hamper their progress. Now this is going to be a long turn from Aya Hashimoto. Yeah, he's going to be having to do it on his own. He's missed a change. It's going to be a long way from here.
This could be an absolute disaster because they were just about to gain the lap on the field, get the 20 points, put themselves up into 3rd place, and for in the stress and the hectic moment, the nature of all the traffic and the carnage at the back of the field, Kuboki forgot to do the change. Now, finally, they get to make it. At least Kuboki's had an extra rest. He might be able to really finish this off, we would hope. That was really hard for Hashimoto, and they have lost ground.
Yeah, that was tough because Hashimoto would have seen the finish line of his teammate. He would have been going so hard because he knew he could sling in his fresh teammate, but then he missed the change, so then he was so burnt from the effort that he had to go again even further. So his teammate now is really hustling, trying to make up the difference there from the lost pace because the bunch has increased their pace, not making it easy, but the Japanese is, after that break, is making good ground. He's not too far now. It's about 20 meters away from making connection to the bunch and taking the lap.
Kuboki makes the change to Hashimoto. The benefit of that almost near disaster, they will get another 5 points at least, but it's the 20 points that they really want. You hear the bell sound for the peloton as the team from Japan, Aya Hashimoto, oh, he must be hurting. to be left in the race when you're trying to gain a lap on the field, that is almost impossible to overcome, but he's trying to do it. He picked up the 5 points, the race behind New Zealand, then it's Germany, then it's Denmark. They pick up the minor points. We focus on the team from Japan, trying to gain a lap on this very fast-moving peloton, and Kuboki comes back in again.
Because now, if they do take the lap, they're going to be on 35 points and threatening the New Zealand team almost. So the Kiwis are starting to turn up the pace in the bunch too, but they're not far away, this Japanese team. They can see them on the straight. All you need is a sniff, a little carry out front, and they're almost about to make a condition and get the benefit from all their reward.
Here it is, and the crowd here in Hong Kong appreciate the effort. They saw just how challenging and difficult that was. At an incredible average speed the peloton was sitting on, Japan, with a missed change, was still able to get around and gain 20 points. And immediately, Portugal have gone on the attack. 2 more sprints remain. The next one to come is the final 5-point sprint. Then it's double points for the last, 10, 6, 4 and 2. Still 15 maximum points on offer. But look at that, Japan have gone right up to 2nd place.
They've absolutely pole vaulted themselves straight into the silver medal position, and they can now follow wheels, try and recover and go for the final few sprints here. The pace has really turned on though. These Portuguese riders have attacked off the front with some venom, absolutely, with the Switzerland team trying to chase them down from behind. But they've got a good gap on the bunch now. The Portuguese team, they're flying along, hugging the bottom of the track, going the shortest distance possible to try and get a gap on the field.
Matias comes in to change over from the World Omnium champion, Lei Tao. They'll get the bell for the penultimate sprint. Now, the peloton are going to keep the speed up here, of course. So while they are a half a lap up on the peloton, they are desperately trying to gain a lap. It's going to be in the throw of the dice at the end of this race if it happens, though. Portugal will get the 5 points. Switzerland will pick up the 3. New Zealand have now gone off the front of the peloton, followed by Germany. And there's confirmation. Penultimate sprint, 10 laps to go. Portugal get the 5 points. But they are desperately trying to take a lap on the field. New Zealand are coming out after them, though.
Because New Zealand cannot afford the Portuguese team to take the lap, otherwise they're going to overtake them. They're going to go to the lead. So Portugal are going to be tied with the lead if they get this lap. So New Zealand do not want that. So they're going to do everything in their power to deny this lap from Portugal because their gold medal is on the line.
Right now we've got the World Omnium champion, Luri Leitao. Chasing him from New Zealand is the World Points Race champion, Aaron Gates. Stuck in between them is the Swiss team. They are just trying to salvage something for Switzerland. Portugal, they're trying to win the gold medal, as is New Zealand, and the race has completely disintegrated. 7 laps to go here at the Track Nations Cup in Hong Kong, and Portugal have really thrown the cat amongst the pigeons.
Yeah, we have New Zealand desperate to deny these Portuguese team taking the lap because they're taking the pace straight through the roof and absolutely splintering the bunch. We've got small groups of riders all through the track because of this absolutely powerful attack from Portugal. They're committed to it. It's a full send sprint now, 5 laps to go. 5 laps of opportunity for these Portuguese teams. They're coming up against riders. They're going to try and take the most advantage of the slipstream as they go past. Not much gap to try and go the shortest way possible. They're absolutely gritting their teeth to try and take this lap. They can see the opportunity and they're giving absolutely everything to this move.
Look at the speed of Portugal as they buzz past the teams that have been dropped from the peloton. It's still New Zealand that are trying to avoid being lapped here by Portugal, and they're about the length of the straight behind the peloton. They are not going to gain a lap now. It's 2 laps to go for Portugal as they come around. Switzerland are still the 2nd team on the track at the moment. So double points on this last sprint. Portugal, I can tell you, they will get those 10 points now. Switzerland are trying to hold on for the 6. And then there's a real scramble from Spain to try and keep themselves in the hunt for the medals. They sit in the bronze medal position. The final bell, 10 points at the end of this lap. It will go to Portugal. The bell you just heard, that was for Switzerland, so they'll pick up the 6. And while the final change for Portugal is made, they'll go up to 33 points. They are waiting to see what Spain do because Portugal right now are in the bronze medal position. But I can tell you that Spain have just crossed the finish line in 3rd place. They get 4 points, so they stay in bronze. Great fight from Portugal to get themselves up into 4th. Didn't quite get the medals, but in the end, after that mad scramble, this is the team that take gold. New Zealand, back-to-back Madison wins at Track Nations Cups for 2024.
What a hot finish that was. Portugal threw it all out on the line, had a Hail Mary attack to try and get a lap in the last 10 laps, but it's Team New Zealand too good. Aaron Gate and Campbell Stewart, who are the Track Nation Cup champions here in Hong Kong, China, and they had an absolute cracker of a race together, showed the speed and absolute raw talent that they have and dominated the field.
And because I was focusing so much on Portugal and Spain as to where they were in the bronze medal position, those points, of course, also equaled Japan. They crossed the line at the last sprint in front of Japan, so therefore tied on points, but take the silver medal over Japan. So that was a really good ride. I've got to say, all four teams there in the top 4, all individually did amazing performances, but it was the Kiwis with the best result.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a race of not missing the move and making the most of the move that you do make, because Japan were not in the medals until they took that lap. But because the lap took so long, they were able to get an extra 10 points because of it, winning 2 sprints. And then the lap was a 30-point move that absolutely won them that bronze medal tonight.
And as impressive as New Zealand were, they would have been desperately trying to get into the points in that final sprint as well to finish it off well. Weren't able to. They were so good tonight, but yet still couldn't get into the points because of just the frantic nature, the hectic nature we saw towards the end. So great riding from New Zealand to go back-to-back. I know after they won in Adelaide last month, Aaron Gate jokingly said, it's only taken us 10 attempts. So they've raced together, he and Campbell Stewart, 10 times at the highest level before they finally got a win. That's the kind of commitment and the amount of time in a Madison. If you want to be consistent, you have to be really experienced. You can put 2 relatively inexperienced but superstar athletes together and get a result, but it won't necessarily mean you'll have consistent results. That's what New Zealand now has. 2 super strong riders with really good Madison smarts, and that's why they're winning so often.
Yeah, absolutely. Going up against class teams from all around the world is never easy. And to come out on top is such an achievement. So, yeah, they have really become such a dominant team, and they work so well together. They complement each other, and they're learning every single race. They get better and better. And it was a crazy race where they're finishing on 45 points, 10 points in front of Spain and Japan.
Now, you've got to calculate this slightly differently because there were some laps that were taken, okay? However, as we look at the results, the Aussies down in 13th place, minus 14 points, unfortunately for Indonesia and Israel. They were lapped a couple of times and then taken out of the race. But the average speed for the 50 kilometres, 59.682 kilometres per hour. Now, that's not quite, and if I explain this quickly, each time a lap is taken, the race becomes 1 lap shorter. So a couple of laps were taken, so the race was technically a few laps shorter than the 200. So it's still going to be very high into the high 58s or low 59s, but 59 k's an hour average speed for a 200 lap bike race here. Unbelievable. Okay, no time to have a deep breath because we are into the sprint finals for the men. And Matthew Glaetzer, I know you didn't start the sprint competition today, so you can look at this fully fresh with a nice view. Not disappointed that you didn't make it into the finals because you didn't start the sprint competition here today, but this is going to be fascinating. Nicholas Paul up against Lee Hoffman for the bronze medal. Then we'll see Matthew Richardson and Kaya Ota. It's a rematch from the Adelaide Track Nations Cup. What do you think? What are your thoughts on these 2 riders? Nicholas Paul, the world record holder. Lee Hoffman, the position #1 in your team sprint team for Australia and a world champion 2 years ago with you. After all the racing we've seen, what are you expecting?
Yeah, I'm expecting Lee to have a really good acceleration advantage over Nicholas Paul. Nicholas Paul generally rides a pretty big gear, and I would guess that it would be bigger than Lee.
And so, when you say big gear, for those that know gear ratios, what size gear are we talking?
So it can range from
inches.
In inches would be from 125 to 110. So you can be on the bigger spectrum of that or the smaller spectrum of that, depending on your capabilities and what suits you and how you want to race. Now, Nicholas Paul is probably going to be on a pretty big gear, and he's drawn 1-2, so he's going to be leading it off with Lee in 2. So Lee's going to be wanting to have a good position, keep Nicholas Paul in range of attack, but Nicholas Paul wants to be holding Lee off because he knows the acceleration that Lee has.
The race for the bronze medal, men's sprint. Nicholas Paul from Trinidad and Tobago, position number 1 up against Lee Hoffman, the Australian, being given an opportunity at this level at a Track Nations Cup to go into the sprint competition. This is unfamiliar territory for Lee Hoffman, but he finds himself in a position to perhaps win a bronze medal. Best of 3 competition. Paul versus Hoffman. The world record holder, Nicholas Paul, 9.1 seconds in Bolivia at super high altitude, thin air. Makes it so much easier to go those high speeds, but regardless, he was able to do it. 9.1 up against Lee Hoffman, who's the fastest man in the world over 1 lap from a standing start for the team sprint for Australia. Former world champion, silver medalist at the Worlds last year in the team sprint, alongside my co-commentator here, Matthew Glaetzer.
Yeah, we're just coming through, finishing the first lap here. Nicholas Paul keeping a watchful eye on Lee as Lee tracks him down to the bottom of the track. Keeping it low here, but Lee's keeping close to him, looking to see if there's any opportunity to make a move as we're coming with 1.5 laps to go. He's going to kick off very soon.
And they'll hear the sound of the bell. It'll be Nicholas Paul, the world record holder, that hears it first. Out of the saddle, stalking in second position, Lee Hoffman. Unfamiliar territory for him to be in this situation in a sprint championship, but he's going to try and get the better of the world record holder, and I don't think he can get to the back wheel. So strong, powerful ride there from Nicholas Paul. He goes 1 up in the best of 3 against the Aussie Lee Hoffman.
Yeah, Nicholas Paul showed his strength there, wound that big gear up and stretched a bit of a gap. Actually, the gap grew going into the bell, and Lee just wasn't able to quite close that quick enough as Nicholas Paul put him under pressure in that final lap.
Question to you then, Matt, is that more pure speed difference, or is that more about just fatigue at the end of a really long competition? Or a bit of both?
I believe it's a bit of both. Lee has done exceptionally well to get to this position, racing in his first World Cup, really, and he's really performed well, but Nicholas Paul has that strength, and on that big gear, it can really take its toll, and he had the speed, and Lee, the fight that he had to get into this bronze against Richo from Australia as well, may have taken a bit of venom out of his legs, but Nicholas Paul then was just too strong, held him off from the front.
So the Track Nation Cup format, 3 days of competition, team sprint, Keirin and sprints. There's so many races that they do. So by the time they get to these finals, these sprinters have had so many difficult, tough, maximum efforts to get to this point. The final now for the men's sprint, race for gold and silver. And it is a rematch from Adelaide last month. Matthew Richards from Australia up against Kaya Ota from Japan. Ota won the Keirin last night. Matthew Richardson crossed the line second in front of you, but was relegated. So you got the silver medal, Matthew Glaetzer. You'd be disappointed for him? Probably not. You're happy for yourself to get the second over the top of him. But he was relegated. Now he's looking for a bit of redemption here in the sprint. Can he get the better of Ota this time? He was unable to do it a month ago, but we're a month further into the season.
Yeah, that's right. He's super motivated to have a good result in this sprint competition, and he wouldn't be too disappointed with how this race is starting off. Nice and comfortable, pretty slow. He's not giving Kaya Ota much space. You can see he's quite close to his rear wheel, not giving him much room. He's going to be right there stalking him and making sure that he's close, ready to take any opportunity he can get to catch Kaya Ota napping, not looking, going too slow. But we'll see this first lap slowly coming around the 4th corner into the final straight. Kaya Ota taking height. He doesn't want the front. That's a clear message, and Richo now knows that Kai wants the back, and so it's up to Richo to now switch into the mindset of leading this out, getting his pace on how he wants to ride this race. You can see Kai Ota getting out of the seat, going for a move.
And down the back straight, they'll hear the bell as they come around. A little bit of more impetus in the body there of Kaya Ota. Got to the back of Richardson, now dived up and down the track. Oh, he's gone off onto the blue band. Matthew Richardson did nothing wrong there. He'll be fine. Down the back straight, and the advantage is for the Australian Richardson. He's looking to see where Ota is, and here he is. He's up around the outside of him, but he doesn't get there. Matthew Richardson gets the first win. They are going to check the photo, but for me it was clear. Richardson got to the line first, so he goes one up in the best of three. And Ota ducking and diving up and down. He was all over the place.
Yeah, that was a crazy race from Ota. He was trying to get that sprinter's lane first, but he was just too far back, and Richo covered it. You can see here, he took the back position quite clearly, but he now was too close. Had to take more height to try and run at him and then try and get the sprinter's lane, but then Richo covered it off and was able to try and run again at the wheel. But you can see on this photo finish here at the lunge how close it was, but Richo held on to go one up in this gold medal final.
That gap's half a day in sprinting. Some of the tight sprints we've seen here over the weekend in Hong Kong, China.
Yeah, and Richo will be really happy to get that one. That was a hard-fought race, and it could have been anyone's game there. If Kai Ota was a little bit smoother and had a cleaner run at Richo, that would have been a lot closer. It could have gone either way there. So Richo did really well to get that win. Rode strong from the front as soon as Kai Ota took the back, and it might be a similar race because they'll be starting in opposite positions, which is how that race finished. So Richo leading out again in the next race to come.
And fortunately for them, they will have the Omnium's elimination race for the women as the rest period. So they'll get a little bit longer rest than what we saw in the semi-finals for them.
It will be longer, but the elimination race doesn't take too long, really. 15, 20 minutes. I mean, that would be bare minimum that a sprinter would want. Absolutely. The semi-final gap was 10 minutes, and that was savage. You never want to hear that from your coach coming off the track and getting told that you're up in 7 minutes. But we have here the women's Omnium standings after the tempo race as they're rolling around, getting ready for their next venture onto the track.
So the elimination coming up for the riders. This is the one race, if you haven't watched track cycling before, somewhat unusual in that we don't look at the front of the peloton. Every 2 laps of the track, it's the last rider across the line. So the back wheel, the last back wheel across the line will be eliminated from the race, right down to the last 2 where they do the final sprint to the line. And we did have the standalone elimination for both men and women on the first day, but this one as part of the Omnium series. This is the 3rd discipline with the points race still to come.
Yeah, this race is all about positioning again. Like that men's Madison, you've got to be near the front, and it pays dividends to make an effort to get near the front to make sure that you're away from the danger zone, which is the back of the race. Because if you get trapped, boxed in at the bottom of the track, then you don't have too much to go. You can't overtake on the underneath, so you need to make sure that you try and avoid the time that you spend at the back of the race here. And these women know that, and the first few laps are always interesting because you get an elimination after 2 laps of this race, and you got to make sure that you are not that first one eliminated at the back of the pack, out positioned at the start of the race.
Bronnie Botha from New Zealand. Let's go back to yesterday's competition, the men's elimination in the Omnium, and Aaron Gate, who we just saw win the Madison, had a disastrous elimination. He was taken out really quite early by his standards.
He was.
I thought, well, there's no chance he can win overall. Then he came out in the final points race and blew the field to pieces, took the gold medal by 1 solitary point. So Bronnie Botha perhaps not wanting to replicate the elimination that Aaron had yesterday, but she'll be looking for a good result here.
No, that's right. I was shocked to see Aaron Gate out so early in the elimination as well, but it just goes to show the power that the points race really has in the Omnium. If you're a good points race rider, you can back yourself. If you have a somewhat decent starting position, then you can really ride yourself into the race. It's all about minimising the damage in the previous races to make sure that you do actually have a shot at that overall win. You can see the riders now getting held by their coaches before the start of this race. Some riders are on the bottom of the track, some at the top, depending on how they're ranking as the crowd introduces their riders and cheers for their favourite rider, the hometown rider here in Hong Kong, China.
Li Xingwing, you can see her right in the middle of the picture there, on the bottom of the track in the blue colours, blue sleeves.
In a decent position, she's middle of the pack, top half of the field, which is great, which are in a quality field like we have here tonight. You can see them gripping onto the fence, ready to push off to start this race.
Well, the rider on the front in the black colours from Japan, that is Tsuyaka Uchino, who leads the overall standings from former world champion Yumi Kajihara. Two Japanese riders, first and second in the overall standings now coming into this elimination. Kajihara, she won the standalone individual elimination on day one. So she's done it before. Let's see how she goes now. Such a strong rider. And that was off the back of finishing third, I think it was, in the team pursuit. So 3 team pursuits that day, then the elimination, she still won it. So she is a very strong rider. We are underway. The next time they come around, they get the bell to sound the first elimination lap, and then we focus at who is in the back of the peloton. The last rider across the line every 2 laps is eliminated from the event. And we can see right down towards the back. High. Also Keirin Will in second position. Not necessarily the last rider coming into the straight high on the track that misses out. It's someone further down often. And it looks like the case this time as well. Misurina. Margarita Misurina, the first one to go.
Yeah, Keirin Will from Australia here is in a bit of a risky position near the back of the race here, but she's on the outside, so she has an opportunity to move up, get out of risk, follow the Kiwi around, potentially to get out of the elimination zone, because it's coming up close here as we see. Oh, doesn't look too good. It's tight on the line.
The camera, yeah, I was going to say the camera operators are pretty good actually.
Yeah.
So they often go to the right person when they focus, and we're still trying to find out and think about who it was, but it was Keirin Will, second rider to go. 18-year-old from Australia.
Just goes to show how fast this race is already and how hard it is to get a good position. And quickly you find yourself at the back of the race and all of a sudden under pressure from being eliminated, as we see the Dutch rider at the back now trying to make a move to save her spot as she comes through to the finish line.
Marit Raymakers does stave off the elimination, and it's Sultanova from Kazakhstan. Rider number 222.
You can see both of these eliminations have come from the middle of the bunch. There's nowhere to go. There's no room to the outside, right or left, and they just get sandwiched with nowhere to go.
And you can see right down the very bottom at the back, that is a dangerous and a vulnerable position to be. Squeezing up underneath there, though, is the rider Li Ziwing from Hong Kong. The other way to be taken out of this race is to infringe on the inside. 208 from Egypt, Zayed, next one to go. So Li Ziwing, she's got to be really careful. If you try to squeeze through onto the blue band to improve your position, the officials also looking for that. So not necessarily the last rider to go across the line, but that's good to see the rider from Hong Kong, though, right up around the outside, and you can hear the crowd up and about. Regardless of what happens from here on, they are loving the fact that she's out there and riding well. And she goes straight to the front to make sure she's not going to be eliminated, and it could be. Yeah, it is. French rider is the next one to go.
Yeah, it was a great move from the Hong Kong rider. She knew she was a threat of being eliminated, so she moved straight to the front. Now she's sitting pretty with the Japanese on the front, settling in with the pace. She knows she's safe. She's just now trying to hold that position to have her in the strong position throughout this race. But the riders at the back are the ones needing to make a move, and going underneath is risky because you can get trapped down there. You've always got space wide, but they're battling to see who can save themselves. And it's the Spanish rider 209 Larate that gets eliminated with that one. Just not quick enough at the finish line.
Second position is where everybody wants to be, and it's so difficult to try to hold that spot as Uchino has backed off a little bit, and Li Ziwing has just been absorbed into the pack a little bit more. Stenberg in a little bit of trouble, so the European Omnium champion from Norway backs out. She should be okay with a rush from the top of the track down across the line, and we look further down below, and it could be Zanardi from Italy. Yes, it is. Silvia Zanardi.
Yeah, second position is the ideal position, but it's easily to get trapped and boxed in, and then all of a sudden you get pushed back further and further. So you need to always be squeezing right to try and get that open path to move up again and flow to the front, as this bunch really is quite condensed with the European champion off the back at the moment, waiting for her move to move up to not be last across the finish line. We've got the Dutch there that she's trying to come around.
Raymakers moves forward, she's okay. And Olga Zablinskaya. So Zablinskaya, the oldest rider in the race, has been eliminated.
Again, European champion at the back of the field, at risk, but she's making her move around the outside, making sure she's not the last one around. She's got space to move around.
Real fight high up around the track. And
the Mexican rider, though, isn't looking like she will go through, and yet she will be last across
Velasco.
the line.
So that's Victoria Velasco is the next to go. And again, and the cheer there was for Lizzie Wing going to the front of the peloton. Next elimination lap, so she's on the front, and the local crowd are absolutely loving it as we go back towards the rear, and it's Stenberg again, the European champ. She's going to be okay. She should be all right. And now rush from above to stay in.
Don't think it was enough, though. Yeah, 2-3-5 from Canada. Yeah, it just goes to show that middle to bottom pack is where you're vulnerable. To my eye, it looked like another rider got eliminated, but there you go. The judges have spotted that on the photo finish.
Yeah, yeah. I thought it might have been Huang Ting-Ying from Taipei, but not the case. She's at the back now again. Stenberg just hovering on the outside. She knows, she can sense there's a rider underneath, so she doesn't have to go too hard if she can try and box that rider in.
Petra Shevsikova, Checha 206. Petra Shevsikova.
Setsikova from Checha. Strong rider, she'll be disappointed with that, but when you're caught down below, there's not much you can do about it. Again, Stenberg, she doesn't mind doing this last position.
Absolutely, she just is content sitting at that last position and just pipping off rider by rider as she goes around the outside, because she knows the riders on the inside are trapped with nowhere to go, where she can slide around the outside.
Well,
but the Chinese
real danger for Li
risk.
Xingwing. No, it's Li Xingwing, I think, the local. Oh, no, they've gone down to Liu Jiali. So the crowd, they're treating this like it was a victory.
Oh, that final sprint by the Hong Kong rider was really strong, and it saved her, and now she's moving up towards the front, which is a great move after that sprint to gain from the effort, move to the front, get out of the risk, and now putting other riders under the pump. European champion again with the Japanese trying to move up, with the Netherlands rider becoming at risk now, trying to go low, which is risky again as they sprint to the line.
And it's Raymakers that's in danger. So Marit Raymakers is the one to go from the Netherlands. Lara Gillespie from Ireland and Anita Stenberg from Norway are the ones that were playing around a little bit there, but it was to the detriment of Raymakers, stuck with nowhere to go. And again, we see underneath Li Xingwing. Surely she can't keep doing these big efforts to move out and go up around the outside. The crowd will certainly be up and about. She has a rider from Lithuania underneath that she might be able to box in. That's Olivia Felicita. And everyone's up and about hoping that Li Xingwing can hold on. It's not going to happen. It was one too far for her. So the rider from Hong Kong is gone.
As the crowd appreciates the efforts there to stay in after being very narrowly eliminated previously, it's hard to try and keep near the front. This pace is being held quite strong by the Swiss rider on the front, with New Zealand on her hip, keeping in good position. But now, again, it's the European champion at risk, but trying to move around the outside with the Japanese as well, trying to fight for a position.
Uchino at the back. So this is the current overall leader from Japan. So Uchino with a real acceleration to try and take Stenberg out, but it's going to be Uchino. So this is great for Kajihara, who's sitting in second place. And Uchino would be disappointed with that.
Yeah, when you're at the top of the standings, you want to have consistent performances in the top 5. But she's eliminated now, and now it's on to these other riders to make the most of this opportunity that they have.
Kajihara sits in second last position. Stenberg, she seems to have booked a ticket for the caboose tonight. Can she keep doing it and keeping herself in the race? Focusing again.
I think the Portuguese rider might be in trouble here. Oh, that was tight.
I couldn't pick that.
Chinese Taipei eliminated 238. Ting Ying Kang just got squeezed at that final moment.
I'd like to see a replay of that. There were 3 riders, maybe 4, that were in danger.
Again, Stenberg on the back, having to make moves around the outside to stay in this one.
Oh, and you can see there diving down underneath. Now, she was pushed down. That was Belisata. We'll have to wait and see what the judges say about that one, because you're not allowed to be down on the blue band improving your position. And it's... yeah, Lithuania. So Switzerland was definitely the last. Seitz was the last across the line, but because she improved her position on the blue band at the bottom. Rider from Lithuania, Olivia Belisata, is gone.
Yeah, you don't see it too often, but pushing up underneath is not allowed. So that Lithuanian eliminated.
She knew it. She put the hands out to think, oh, I didn't mean to do this, because she did get pushed down, but regardless, you can't do that. Stenberg on the front of the peloton this time. So that's a bit of a change. Good to see her up there, the European champ. And the former world champ flies up around the outside, and this time it will be Elaine Seitz from Switzerland. So last across the line in the previous elimination lap, but stayed in, and now she's gone.
Now we're down to the final 5 riders. Gets a bit cagey now. They're taking some height into this final sprint with the New Zealander on the front, trying to look back to try and catch any move from behind. Now it starts to get low if I was them, because you don't want to get caught out. You may as well take the front and make the move as the Japanese does.
And she dives through underneath, and ooh, she's going to be a real danger there, perhaps. We've seen an elimination from a situation like that already. So Kajihara, but it's Gillespie and Martins. I think it may have been Gillespie. Yep, so Lara Gillespie last across. So they didn't punish Kajihara for that move.
No, she was already there in the lane. It was just a bit tight as they were all moving low. We come into the final sprint now again.
So Martins, both up. Kajihara and Stenberg, the European champion. We've got the European champ, we've got the former world champ in front of her. And Martins from Portugal, side by side with Bryony Botha. Look over the shoulder, and I think Kajihara realises that Stenberg has run out of legs. So the European champ is out, 4th place for her.
Yeah, all those moves from the back, trying to overtake the long way around, I think has taken its toll on the European champion's legs, and she's going to settle for 4th in the elimination race as we're down to the final 3.
Well, Bryony Botha not doing the same as Aaron Gate yesterday in the men's elimination, putting in a fantastic ride in this one. Botha comes in, Martins from Portugal in 2nd. Then it's the winner of the elimination on the first day, Yumi Kajihara. Has she got the legs to pop over the top? She has a great little acceleration, has Yumi, and she's going to be easily going over the top. So that's really cagey. It just shows how comfortable she's feeling out there, because she was so confident.
Yeah, so there was a great turn of speed there to keep her safe to go 1-on-1 for this final sprint to see who can take out the elimination race of the women's Omnium.
40 points up for the winner in the overall Omnium series. Only the points race to come. Yumi Kajihara from Japan is now in the overall standings, commanding lead. Bryony Botha from New Zealand, though, she wants to get the win in this elimination, get the 40 points, and here comes Kajihara, the former world champ. She takes her 2nd elimination win for the weekend. This time it's in the Omnium, and claims the 40 points on offer, so she'll have a nice lead going into the final discipline, the points race. Bryony Botha, 38 points for her for 2nd place. So good battle, and again, the strength, but also just the craft. It is really impressive for Yumi.
Yeah, she's shown her class in this event, taking out both the individual and now the elimination within the women's Omnium. She just knows how to win these races. Good positioning. She's really small, gets aerodynamic, tucks in, stays out of danger, and is there when it matters.
It's one thing to win an elimination, but to be consistent and often in the top 3, You've got to have the strength, but you also have to have the craft, the skills to always be repositioning and looking a couple of laps ahead, and that's what Yumi's been able to do every time. So she will be on 114 points going into the final points race. Lara Gillespie from Ireland with that solid ride. She moves up to second place, but 10 points behind on 104. And then it's Uchino that went out earlier in that elimination. She went from first coming into it. Now she sits in third place. Kajihara, Botha, Martins, Stenberg, Gillespie, top 5. So a 10-point advantage now for Yumi Kajihara over Gillespie. 14-point advantage over Uchino in third place. So handy little margin to have going into that final discipline for the women's Omnium.
Yeah, 10-point buffer is great. That's 2 sprints. So having a nice little buffer there enables her to be in the box seat and make sure she covers any threats and just focuses on the people that are around her. Keep in the mix. As we move on here to the men's sprint finals, we've got Lee Hoffman coming up against Nicholas Paul. Nicholas Paul was a bit too strong from the front in their first race, and Lee's looking to change that. He has to win this one to take it to a decider, to take it to 3. Let's try and claim this bronze medal.
Put your coach's hat on, Matt Glazer. What would be your advice to Lee Hoffman to force a decider and get this win?
It looks like Nicholas Paul has a bit more top speed, can get that big gear going quite well. So Lee's strength is pace control and use his acceleration to his advantage. So I wouldn't expect Lee to be going off 2 guns a-blazing in this race. He wants to control the race it to his strengths, back himself with acceleration, and try and keep Nicholas Paul relatively close so he doesn't have a big target to run into. As Lee heads off now, with Nicholas Paul going up the track.
So the slower the pace can be for as long as possible, with just a final real brutal acceleration, should be the advantage of Lee Hoffman. But that's what Nicholas Paul will be trying to avoid.
Exactly. Nicholas Paul is going to want to push this pace on more than Lee would want it to. So it's a battle of who's going to execute this race to suit them. And Lee's in the position where he has to. Now he's going up the track here as Nicholas Paul is hugging the fence line. Lee's going to really keep it slow, but keep it controlled. So he's going to keep Nicholas Paul under pressure while defending his spot at the front, but not lead Nicholas Paul out. Doesn't want to give him a big slipstream to run into and blast into with this big gear that he's riding. You can see Nicholas Paul out of the seat, trying to get up some height that helps with riding a big gear, get the banking to your advantage. He's going to be winding up for a move. He's not going to be waiting too long.
And to try and counteract that, Lee Hoffman just diving down the track a little bit to try and open up the gap between himself and Paul. And now we come to the final lap. Paul is right on it. Maximum effort, and Hoffman too slow to react. So Nicholas Paul has got up and over the top of Lee Hoffman. But Hoffman fighting back on the inside. He wants to force a decider here. Good fight back from Hoffman, the Australian. But it is a straight set win to Nicholas Paul from Trinidad and Tobago, and that's a bronze medal to the world record holder. A little bit of hesitation coming into the bell. Good fight back though from Lee. Like, it seems that that second effort exceeded the acceleration is quite extraordinary from Lee.
Yeah, that's right. Lee did a good job there. Nicholas Paul just, you could sense him getting out the seat with height. Here he just has a great acceleration on that big gear. Even though he's going quite wide around the corner, he just carries that speed all the way through to just get Lee on the line there. It was a matter of winding that gear up for Paul. You could sense him taking height, getting near the fence, and making sure that he has that good run with that gear. He can wind it up, and he started to really get on it quite early, pressurized Lee to get on the gas, and it was quite fast there, and just ran into that draft and came around. It was a good race, but now we're coming up to the gold medal final. Richardson has won the first one. Kaya Ota in 2 is going to have to take this one to a decider. It's a showdown from the Adelaide Nations Cup. They raced each other, and it's going down again here. Hong Kong, China, Track Nations Cup. Matthew Richardson against Kaya Ota. Matt Richardson's on the front this time, And the first race, we saw Kai Ota swing up the track and really relinquish the first position. Kai Ota is really comfortable in second position. And it's going to be really interesting as this race now is set up like that.
The race for gold, men's sprint, final. Kai Ota from Japan versus Matthew Richardson from Australia. Richardson won the first race. If he wins this, he is the gold medalist. He finished second to Kai Ota in Adelaide a month ago. At the moment, he has one hand on the gold medal here in Hong Kong, China, Track Nations Cup.
Richardson takes right number 1 here. Ota knows what he needs to do. He's on some good form. Here's Matthew Richardson.
The former gymnast versus the former rower. Both superstar sprinters now in cycling. Fastest qualifier, Matthew Richardson. Ota won the Keirin last night and beat Richardson in Adelaide to kick off the Track Nations Cup Series for 2024, leading towards the Paris Olympic Games, of course. Both of these riders want to be on the podium in Paris. Getting another win here for either of them, great confidence booster.
You can see Richo having some height here, but Kai Ota is very comfortable at the back. He's leaving a good gap to make sure that he's going to keep this position. He's got a good target to run at. Richo's going to have to make sure he doesn't get caught napping here as Kai Ota's going for it.
So acceleration both riders, but Ota quickly up and a look over the shoulder from Richardson, but it was a little too late. Ota has gone into the final lap in front. Can Richardson run him down? He has to get this win. Ota desperately trying to force a deciding race, and Ota leads into the final straight. Oh, and Richardson right up beside him. Super tight, incredibly close. I think Ota held on for the win. We'll wait for the photo. But Richardson almost ran into the back, and it has been given to Kai Ota. So it's one race apiece. The gold medal comes down to a deciding race. He almost ran straight into the back of Ota.
Yeah, he wasn't giving him any room, that's for sure. You can see, I could sense that there was a move coming. Kai Ota wanted that gap to run into, and he just fully committed to that move to come around Richo.
Oh,
So close
race.
on the line.
What a great race.
Yeah,
though.
fantastic. Such a close race between them. Two quality, super fast, super powerful sprinters going head to head. You always love to see it, and now it's going to go down to the decider. Justice, really, to these two riders. There's so nothing in them, and it's going to be a great showdown to see who can get that third and final ride to claim the gold medal here at the Track Nations Cup in Hong Kong, China.
Well, we've got the Keirin race for 7th coming onto the track now for the women. But I will get your take on just the emotions and the feelings, Matt Blatzer. Watching a teammate get narrowly defeated, how's it feel? How nervous does that make you feel in watching this and now commentating it?
Gets my heart rate up, absolutely, because I know what it's like out there. I know how intense it is and the effort that they're putting in. So much goes into every single race, and to just miss out by a tyre width, that could have been Richo's gold if he had just come over that little bit sooner, or if he caught the move from Kai Ota that little bit earlier. So there's nothing in it in the sprinting game. Any decision that you miss, any moment that you don't see can punish you. And we saw that, Kai Ota taking his chance and taking it to a decider.
The race for 7th in the women's Keirin. Two riders from the Netherlands, Steffi van der Piet and Hetty van der Waal. There's Hetty. Also Miriam Fecci from Italy, the European champion. She'll be disappointed to be racing for 7th and not for the medals. That's Leah Friedrich from Germany. Also Mina Sato from Japan, two Japanese riders, Ryu Ota also.
As the electric derny, as they called it, gets rolling for this 7th to 12th final. Used to be petrol, and you used to inhale a whole bunch of exhaust if you drew one, but as the gun goes, they draw for positions, slot into their spots behind the bike, get a good understanding of where their competitors are. We've got the Japanese Ryu Ota in 1, Sophie Lee Friedrich in 2, the European champion. We got Hetty van der Waal in third. We've got the Chinese of Linjung Wang in fourth. The Italian of Miriam Vecce in fifth. And the other Netherlands rider, Steffi van der Peet, I think, if I got those two the right way around.
Well, let's look for the differences on their bikes and their material, perhaps, so we can get a better indication for you at home. It is, the last position is Steffi van der Peet from the Netherlands. And she's the one that's moving up around the outside now. So the bike's about to come off. 3 laps to go, and it's van der Peet that leads Rio Otto from Japan in second position, then Vecchi, then it's Friedrich, and the second of the Dutch riders now, van der Waal. And Vecchi is the first to really counteract, and Wang down underneath there, so really tricky move there from Wang. She's picking the lock to try and get through on the inside. Vecchi goes first. Van der Waal from the Netherlands. Wang into, so let's say, third position, high on the track though. And Leah Friedrich, the European champion, trying to fight 4 wide as they come into the final lap. So Van der Waal down the back straight. Then it's Wang now goes over the top. Friedrich doesn't seem to have the answer though. And Wang Liyun from China will come through to get 7th place. Friedrich will finish 8th. Rio Otto from Japan will finish in 9th place.
It was a long Keirin, that one. There's moves early from the front repositioning, which then injected some pace into the race. And then it was just riders trying to flow on from there. And it was the fatigue that took its toll. Rio Otto started on the front and saw the move coming from the Dutch rider over to the front that really kicked off the other moves. And it was really this move that kicked it off with the Chinese coming around the outside. And Sophie Lee Friedrich just didn't have enough to counter it and follow her through, but got 8th in that 7th to 12th final.
The way that Wang was able to just navigate the bunch underneath, just ducking and diving, moving through underneath, that was really smart, intelligent riding from her.
If the rider in front of you isn't in the sprinters lane, you are more than welcome to take that sprinters lane up the inside. And that's what she did, and credit to her, it got the win in that 7th to 12th Keirin final.
Points so important for a lot of these nations looking to get allocations for the Olympic Games. And the race for the medals now. Nikki de Grendele, Mathilde Grohl, Emma Finucane, Emma Hinze, Mina Sato, and Alina Litsenko. Hinze, former world champion, the German. 2020 she won that. 2022, Mina Sato was the silver medalist at the Worlds. Emma Finucane is the current world sprint champion. Mathilde Groh was the world sprint champion 2 years ago. So incredibly packed final this, as you would expect for the Track Nations Cup.
We have Mathilde Gross drawing 6th and Emma Hinze in 5th here at the back of the race. We've got Emma Finucane, the sprint world champion, in 4th with Alina Litsenko in 3rd. We have Mina Sato drawing 2nd position, and drawing number 1, who's going to be onto the bike from Belgium, is Nikki de Grendele. We are set for a hot final here as the Derny is about to get underway very shortly, and these riders are going to battle it out to see who can become the Track Nations Cup Keirin champion here in Hong Kong.
Do we have a standout favourite?
You can't deny Emma Finucane's speed, outright form at the moment. It's going to be hard to beat, but she's going to have to execute because there's Mathilde Gross that she fought hard for in the sprint against, and I think it's between Finucane, Hinze and Gross, the British, German and French rider, would be the top seeds in this final. To really look out for a move from the back from Mathilde Gross. She's not going to want to stay there for too long, especially with the likes of Emma Finucane in front of her. You've got, this is really interesting, this was similar to my final yesterday. The top 3 seeds, the back 3 positions. So they're all looking at each other. They're all probably willing to give a gap to the riders in front, potentially at their own risk. to cover off any threat from those rivals behind them that are just so close. So this is going to be a really interesting final to watch, to see how this plays out. How cagey are they going to be with each other, just watching each other off the back. You can see now Emma Finucane giving that gap to the front three riders because she knows she's got those covered. As where the first move kicks off from Emma Hinze, straight round the outside before the motorbike comes off, which it does now. She wants to slot in, get into the mix. Around to the front she flows with Nikki de Grendele trying to follow that wheel. We got Mathilde Gross as well trying to make up from the back with Mina Sato covering that move.
So Gross hung out wide, right up around the outside as they come to 2 laps to go, and Hinze has been run down. Sato first to go over the top, and Finucane, the perhaps outright favourite for this, she is in the box seat, second position. Sato, she comes to the final lap, but it's Finucane, the world sprint champion, that now powers up around the outside. Hinze trying to come back to get herself into the medals. Litsenko is sitting there as well, but it's the world sprint champion that's comfortably going to win the Keirin final here. Really solid ride there from Finucane. Tactically superb ride. Didn't have to do anything until she heard the bell. That's when she hit out round the outside. So perfect execution. And a gold medal going to Emma Finucane from the women's Keirin. Hinze went early, got run down and then had to do a second effort. So solid ride from her as well.
That's right, this early move from Emma really took a bit of a toll with the moves flowing forward as well. It's this move that really was the race-winning move, flowing over from the front, getting that position, and at that speed, at that point, good luck trying to pass because you're going so quick, and she rolls through the line, becomes both the sprint champion and the Keirin champion here in Hong Kong. Phenomenal form that Emma Finucane has right now. She's showing real promise and must be a real confidence booster in Olympic year. In preparing for the Paris Olympic Games, she is getting some really good race experience and practicing the moves that she may have to execute in Paris later in the year, trying to win the Olympics.
So gold going to Emma Finucane ahead of Emma Hinze from Germany, and Alina Litsenko getting the bronze medal. So solid ride from her to get herself into the final and onto the podium. Nikki de Grendele finished in 4th, Mina Sato 5th, and Mathilde Gros from France, 6th place for her, but she was just hung up on the outside for so long. And we've seen that in the Keirins, that if you can't make that move and get quickly past and have to spend half a lap to a lap, 2 or 3 wide, it's just too much to ask.
It is. We say black line is king because going that extra distance really hurts the legs, and you need to be as efficient as possible doing the moves with repositioning, getting to the front, and it was just a bit too far for her to pass that wide for that long.
Well, there'll be just a moment of pause as we get ready for the first of our victory ceremonies. And we still have the points race to come for the women's Omnium. We did have the youth racing this afternoon, as we have had each day, both youth women and youth men. The lads and the young ladies, under 17s, and they had their elimination races this afternoon. We'll do their presentations as well in just a moment. This is the start list for the youth women's elimination.
It's actually one of the first times that a youth event has been integrated into the senior International World Cup or Nations Cup event, and I wasn't actually aware until yesterday that people were saying that, oh, it's great having the youth events here. I was like, oh, I've been too focused on my own races, haven't realised. I've been enjoying the break that the events give me with my own schedule, but it's fantastic seeing these young riders get out in front of a great crowd at a big event too. Getting some experience at a big event goes a long way at a young age, and it's fantastic seeing them enjoying the sport and seeing what they can do and enjoying riding a bike. That's what it's all about.
And often we don't know exactly where we can identify where the inspiration for future stars comes from. But when you're young and you get to ride in the program of the Track Nations Cup, it's quite clear that is an inspirational moment for them.
Absolutely. Rubbing shoulders with their superstars really is a big moment. And to join the stage, to stand on the same podium that the elite and world champion and Olympic champions that are here have stood on is going to be memorable.
To stand on the same podium that Matthew Glaetzer has stood on twice this weekend must be such an inspiration for these young riders.
Oh, I don't know about that, but it's fantastic to see them doing well at such a young age.
Absolutely. And we can see our top three from the elimination from this afternoon. Jiang Qian was the bronze medalist, now receives her bronze. Familiar faces from the last couple of days, these young riders. Ho Wing Chi came away with the silver medal. Talk about young faces. You get used to seeing all the elite riders on the presentation, and you don't really get to see the faces that close up often because of the helmets and the visors. It's only when they come onto the presentation dais that you really get to see how they look on the broadcast. And then you bring up the youth, you think, wow, they are really young. They are just kids.
Yeah, absolutely. We're very rarely recognised outside of our race kit because we do look so different. Our helmets, our visors cover up a lot of our face. So it's great to have them on full show here at the podium as they're receiving their gifts that are called din dongs, these cushions. A bit of a different gift here in Hong Kong. It's nice and fun for them to receive those as well. Same as we receive as seniors, exact same medals as well. So a very cool moment for them.
Well, you have two of those gifts. So how big's your bag? You able to take them home?
Well, I'm putting one in my bike box, that's for sure. I had a few kilos buffer there, so one I'll squeeze into my luggage. And so that was my strategy. Split the load.
Don't put it on the chainring side.
No, that's right.
Might get a bit greasy.
I've put it in a plastic bag to try and protect it because we've got one each for my wife, Nikki, and I, and I wouldn't want to mark one up because I know I would probably end up with that one. So it's good to protect the future gifts.
This was the start list for the youth men's elimination that we had this afternoon as well. Much bigger field as we've seen, and it has been really competitive. All three races, they had a scratch race, a points race, and then the elimination. And all of them were very, very competitive. Good equipment throughout as well, which is one of the prohibiting factors, I guess, for high-level track cycling in particular, is just the cost of the equipment. Everyone has a road bike anyway, regardless of what the cost is. But then to back that up with track equipment, as these young lads have been able to do, thanks to their parents, or whatever club situation they might be in, on borrowed bikes perhaps. But look at that fantastic battle right down to the last.
Yeah, these bikes are not cheap, and it's good to see that they have the support to be able to pursue this sport at a high level. Because the more powerful that these guys become, the stiffer the bike they need, and it just helps with their progression in the sport. But at the end of the day, legs do the talking. You still need to push the bicycle around the track, and talent can get you a long way before you need to buy an expensive bike. I tell you what, it's not the be-all and end-all, but at the top end, it certainly makes a difference. But it's great to see these guys having such success in the sport and enjoying great equipment as well that helps them achieve these results.
Yun Tin Long with the gold medal. It was Li Wan Chun silver and Cheung Sami in the bronze medal on the right-hand side.
Ladies and gentlemen, please once again show your appreciation and applause for our champion and his medalist.
The next generation of Hong Kong's stars, perhaps. We all start the same way, typically, around this age, if not a bit younger. How old were you when you came in?
Yeah, that's right. I was 16 when I started in the sport. So, yeah, anything's possible. You don't count anyone out, no matter when they start the sport, and it's just a great testament to not limiting yourself or the kids or young ones that you're around, to encourage them into sport, even if they think that's too late of a transition to start a new sport or try something different. It's always worth giving it a go, because you never know, you might get good at it really quickly, which was my case. And it's always great to have more participation in sport, especially from a young age. Keep them active and healthy, off their phones.
pole vault.
Yes.
Pole vault's a sport you did as a youth, yeah?
Yes, that's what I transitioned into. I was into athletics and basketball and all that stuff, but then at 12 I thought I'd get all serious and give pole vaulting a red hot crack for a couple of years.
Next presentation is for the men's Madison, and what an incredible race that was tonight. Hard fought. New Zealanders looked as if they were they were the winners, they were the dominant force, but it was quite close in the very end, which certainly made for a fantastic race. So many teams in the hunt, and it came down to these three. Top 10, we had Austria down in 10th, France 9th, Mexico in 8th, Switzerland after that first lap gain held on to 7th, Denmark in 6th, Germany, the European champions, were 5th, and the final throw of the dice from Portugal put them up into 4th place. But it was Japan that came away with the bronze medal. And I really felt for Aya Hashimoto when they missed the change, trying to get a lap on the field.
That hurt.
Oof. They were still able to do it. Kashuji Kuboki, and there's the very likeable Aya Hashimoto. He has told me that he wants to come out back to Australia to ride the Bendigo Madison next year. I mentioned this a couple of times tonight, so apologies if I'm repeating too much, but Bendigo Madison, Hashimoto he raced there about 5 years ago, loved it, and wants to come back out to Australia for that. So we're not talking Nations Cups or World Championships or Olympics. He wants to come to a little town in Australia and race at Madison.
He can't get enough,
Yeah.
and we can't get enough of him either. He's a great character, really good guy.
Good ride from Spain in the end. It was a desperate move into the last sprint to get some points to hold on to the silver medal. And Sebastian Mora and Albert Torres. But back-to-back wins in Nations Cup for the New Zealand Madison team. They were bronze at the World Championships last year. They won in Adelaide at the Nations Cup last month, and then again here in Hong Kong, China. Aaron Gate, the World Points Race champion, and Campbell Stewart. What a strong combination they have become. So this is the 11th attempt at the highest level of Madison racing. Now they have 2 wins to their names.
I'm actually surprised it's only 2. I've seen them race for many years, my whole career really, and they've always been up there. It's just, at the moment, they're just really coming to the fore and getting that next step that they need to be the dominant team in the field.
New Zealand, Spain and Japan. Gold, silver, bronze in the men's Madison here in Hong Kong, China. The UCI Track Nations Cup brought to you by Tissot. 59 kilometres per hour average speed for a 50-kilometre race. Incredible.
Yeah, it blows my mind. As a sprinter, we may last 3 laps in a race like that. And then we're dropped and done and eliminated, pulled off, see you later, thanks for coming. It's
Actually,
just the level that these guys are at, incredible.
Talking about speed, there was I was thinking about it today, because you look at the flying 200 metres that you sprinters do, and incredible speeds. It always comes up with a maximum speed, 73, 45, whatever it is, kilometres per hour. But that's actually for the average over the 200 metres.
Correct, yes.
So what's the absolute peak speed that you guys do get to?
We're up around the 79 kilometre an hour mark, peak speed.
Wow.
And so we would then drop down to high 60s towards the end, but yeah, it is an average.
That is incredible. We are going to have an opportunity to have a chat to our Madison Nations Cup winners, back-to-back winners from New Zealand, Campbell Stewart and Aaron Gate. They were both on the podium as well, but let's hear from our New Zealand new gold medalists, Campbell Stewart and Aaron Gate.
Yeah, it wasn't done. It was a bit of a hard one out there. There were plenty of teams that were really pushing us tonight, and yeah, we managed to just consecutively stay at the front, pick up the points, and yeah, be in most of the moves. But yeah, definitely it wasn't easy, but we managed to come out on top.
How does that feel to play in Hong Kong?
Oh, it was awesome. Yeah, I mean, this track's always a great one to race on. It's definitely good for the Madison. We've had a lot of success here, and yeah, hopefully we can carry this on for the next few months into the Olympics.
Congratulations. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, 搞掂，唔該晒。
What a strong team. Great combination. Here we go. Deciding race for the gold medal in the men's sprint coming up now. And my heart rate goes up a little bit when I'm commentating and get involved in it. It's all exciting. But to be a friend and a training partner and a pure sprinter and former world champion who's disciplined yourself, Matthew Glatzer, I'm intrigued to find out, you know, what's going through your head at the moment as we look at Matthew Richardson up against Keirin.
We welcome now two warriors back onto the track.
So the final for the men's sprint, one race apiece. And it all comes down to this, the deciding match between Keirin Ota from Japan and Matthew Richardson from Australia. So here we go, do or die match between these two. One final effort in Hong Kong for both Ota and Richardson. Who comes away with the gold medal? What a big race this is. Both riders being involved in the team sprint day 1, Keirin day 2. Ota won the Keirin last night, and they're now into the round of sprints.
They would have drawn again for this final round, being the final one. They draw for positions, and Richo's drawn 1, Keirin Ota drawing 2. Now, if I was in their positions, Keirin Ota would be happy with that draw. He likes riding from the back from what we've seen so far, as Richo goes high on the track, willing to give up that front position if Kai wants it, but Kai's broadcasting that he's happy in second spot as Richo goes down low to create some space now, try and pressurise Keirin Ota coming into the business end now of the sprint.
Down the back straight, lap and a half to go, and look, a bit of a seated acceleration from Keirin Ota. Richardson trying to counteract that at the bottom of the track. And think about the fatigue after 3 days of racing. One big effort is the last lap now in the men's sprint. And it's Richardson that's opened up a couple of lengths down the back straight. This is looking really good for the powerful Australian. Can he get the gold medal? Ota is coming. Ota is coming over the top. He may have got there. Keirin Ota, there was a massive margin he had to overcome. The Japanese crowd, they are loving it. The team are up and about. It has gone to Keirin Ota. I thought that was Richardson. The gap was huge down the back straight.
The closing speed of Ota was phenomenal, and that final push to the line, lunge, and just got it against Richo. Oh, what an effort. These guys have given everything for this final ride. It was a good ride from both parties, to be honest. Richo held the front well, had a big gap though that Keirin Ota just absolutely charged into. Around the outside, building pace into that final lap. Richo goes for home, but you see the distance he had to close, and on the line, it's actually half a wheel in the end. What a phenomenal run by Keirin Ota.
Quite a bit more than I actually thought, but that was an extraordinary final quarter of a lap from Keirin Ota. I thought there was no way he could run down Richardson from there, but he did, and that's back-to-back wins in the sprint at the Track Nations Cup for Keirin Ota. Japanese sensation is on incredible form in an Olympic year. And a little bit of disappointment for Matthew Richardson, so that's 2 silver medals to the same man in the first 2 rounds of the Nats Cup this year.
Yeah, but both 2 phenomenal finals. These guys, it's anyone's day because they're so tight in raw speed. It's just who can execute well, who can time their run to perfection. And in that final one, Richo just was blowing up a bit at the end. His legs just probably gave out a touch more, and Keirin Ota running into that draft had a crazy finishing speed.
And that's something to consider when we think about the Paris Olympic Games. As we go down the list, there were 45 riders in the sprint qualifying this morning, only the top 28 going through into the racing. But at the Olympic Games, the program is not over 3 days. It is spread over a much more amount of time, so there is recovery between these races. So someone like Richo in this situation in Paris won't be as fatigued as he was here tonight.
It's a completely different ball game racing the sprint at the Olympics than it is a Nations Cup, because they have to do all races in one day here in Hong Kong, whereas at the Olympics, they're going to have 3 days to complete the same amount of racing.
Yeah.
So an explosive sprinter like Richo is going to benefit from that schedule, and it's going to be really, most sprinters, if not all of them, are going to be fresh for every race they do. So it really is going to be the fastest and most switched on sprinter who wins. The fatigue and the backing up doesn't come into it as much at the Olympics. So you get quality, you get the recovery periods you need, and it's a showdown of the fittest that they can exploit their traits and go to town on every single race as they have that recovery that they need.
And it's fair to, because we weren't broadcasting the afternoon qualifying sessions, the world champion, Harry Leverkusen, he was here. He didn't race the team sprint. There was a real disaster for the Netherlands qualifying 9th position. Only the 8 go through, so they were outside of qualifying in the team sprint. He didn't ride the Keirin. There was talk about food poisoning and having a bit of an issue, so he didn't ride the Keirin, but then he lined up for the sprint today, qualified 4th fastest, which was unusual for him. Not that far behind Matthew Richardson, but still 4th fastest, and then didn't go through. He actually then decided to, I think he did the first race and then decided to pull out of the program. Yeah,
we heard that he had gastro, and it's never easy racing when you're sick. And I mean, he qualified in what, a 9.6 was it, which is still very fast, but not to Harry Leverkusen standards. So he would have known he wasn't on his best form, and after the first race, he may have just been too sick. You never know. At that point, it's Olympic preparation. It's probably more worth for him to rest, not race, and make himself even worse and hamper his training in the months to come than race a sprint competition here.
Yeah, that was a very interesting weekend for the Dutch male sprint team, I can tell you. They didn't have as much success as we've come to see from that squad, and that's had a lot of people talking about what's going on there. I'm sure by the time we get to Paris, things will be different. From Matthew Blates's perspective, he's hoping it's not. He's hoping it's exactly the same. Now, this is the final discipline within the women's Omnium. There's Bronnie Botha. She sits in 6th place overall, but it's Yumi Kajihara from Japan that leads. She's lined up at the top of the track on the fence, position number 1 high up there. Down the bottom, you'll see Lara Gillespie from Ireland, who's in the 2nd position at the moment. So she has 10 points behind Kajihara. Then there's Suyaka Uchino from Japan on 100, 4 points behind Gillespie, but 14 points behind Kajihara. There's Yumi, Uchino behind her, and Liu Jiali from China, 3rd position on the fence, but 5th place overall coming into this final race. So the points that they scored in each of the first 3 disciplines are all tallied together, and that's what they start the final points race with. So Kajihara now on 114 points, and this is now raced like a normal points race. All the points that we have every 10 laps and the final double point sprint added to that overall tally. Kajihara looking really strong.
She sure is. She's had a phenomenal 3 races so far to put her in a really strong position with a 10-point lead heading into this final points race. Those 3 races just position them for this final one. It all comes down to this points race. Having a good clean race, putting yourself in the positions to score some valuable points, to raise yourself in the rankings if you're a bit lower down, or defend your lead. You will know who the strong riders are after these 3 events. You've ridden against them, you know who are your rivals and contenders for this points race to take out the overall women's Omnium. And they're really going to have to make sure that they have a really strong race to finish here, have some strong legs to finish off. It's a long race. We've got 80 laps. We've got 8 sprints, and it's going to come down to who's got the endurance with some speed to take out some sprints to progress their point tally.
80 laps, sprint every 10. Same format as we saw in the Madison tonight. And I just quickly jumped on my phone because I've had a message that's come through with a photo of Uchino as an under-19 world champion. At the time, she was part of the UCI Training Centre. It was 2019. And the message came from Brett Aiken, my good friend, and Olympic Madison gold medal winning partner, to say that he was helping her out, coaching her back then. So Brett Aiken claiming Uccino's performances still all these years later. Good on you, Brett. Shout out to you. And the first attacks have come. Stenberg, the European Omnium champion, on the move. She was chasing. It was the Italian rider Zanardi that was the first one to actually go. Stenberg was quick to follow. Gillespie from Ireland, she's the danger rider. Compared to Yumi Kajihara, Gillespie sits in second place, but as we said, there's a 10-point buffer between her and Yumi. Bronnie Botha. If you watched last night, you saw one of the greatest comebacks in a men's Omnium series ever. I say one of, I'm not sure if it was the greatest, but it was pretty dang good, I tell you. Aaron Gate from New Zealand, 40 points that he had to overcome to get himself up to the top, and he did so. He won by 1 point. Bronnie Botha at the moment, she sits in 6th place. She's on 79. And a decent attack here. Sultanova from Kazakhstan. Another thing that happens in the points race with the Omnium, the riders that are a fair way down in the standings often get opportunities to go on the attack. So you take a lap, you get 20 points. And the top riders, Kajihara, Gillespie, Uccino, Balasaito sits in 4th place. They all start looking at each other. And that allows riders that are a fair way down in the overall standings to do exactly this. They're not going to be looking after these ones so much. And if you're strong enough, you might be able to get 1 or 2 laps over the field, get another 20 to 40 points, and you're right back in the hunt for a medal.
That's right. It gives opportunities to these riders to get some points and really raise their overall standing in this women's Omnium, as the Kazakhstan rider has taken this opportunity and will get this first sprint, because she's got a solid 40-metre lead on the bunch, but they're starting to wind up now and fight for those final 3 points paying positions.
Renata Sultanova picks up the 5, and Uccino came from the clouds. We were just talking about her and a connection to our friend in Brett Aiken, who runs the South Australian Sports Institute in Adelaide. And she's come from the clouds to just pip over the top of Kajihara and pick up the 3 points that were on offer. Yumi with 2 points, with Gillespie not in the points that time, so she will extend her lead now. So Kajihara on 116, Gillespie on 104. Good tight battle emerging already after that sprint for the silver medal between Uccino and Gillespie.
Yeah, there's everything to play for in this final points race. Really need to be wary of where your competitors are and making sure that you're scoring points when they're not, and minimize the sprints that they are actually going to compete and gain points on you. There's only 1 point now between Gillespie and Uccino, as we can see on the standings. So it's going to be a really tight battle to make sure that they cover each other and they're in the points to try and claim the best position possible, because they're still in it to win it. They can still get this gold medal. It's within reach. 12 points is attainable after a few good sprints, as we get an attack from the Italian down the bottom, with the Japanese covering with the Australian rider doing a good job with following that move down to make sure that the attack doesn't really event to a serious lap threat.
Well, the very first move came from Silvia Zanardi, and this is now another genuine move off the front. So she is clearly wanting to be given some leeway. She's fairway down in the overall standings. Have a quick down, and she is down in 20th place, only on 20 points. So she could take a couple of laps, and it's not going to impede the riders at the moment that are standing in the medal positions. And it is going to be short-lived, though. Nice little attack, but the peloton's average speed remained high, and she has been reabsorbed.
Yeah, and it's all back together now with the New Zealand rider going to the front, swinging up, seeing who wants to take the lead, take control of this race, because it's still early days, but we're only 3 laps away from the next sprint. So those people wanting to contest the early sprints need to be positioning themselves well, making sure that they're near the front to take advantage of this sprint that's now only 2 laps away.
62 laps to go. They hear the bell the next time they come around. The whole peloton in the women's Omnium riding at the top of the track, who can put themselves through and into a good position and set up. Olga Zablinskaya from Uzbekistan, 43 years of age, 61 laps to go. And she has been very quickly run down, though. Velasco goes over the top for Mexico. And she's trying to hold on to get the 5 points. So Victoria Velasco will get the 5 points. And there was a cheer, as we've heard every time we've seen Li Xingwing from Hong Kong come towards the front. She may have been third that time, I think she was. So the rider from Hong Kong, Li Xingwing, getting 2 points for third. And definitely a lot of support from the crowd.
Interestingly, none of the contenders in that sprint, so they're willing to sit back, save their legs a little bit, and really make their moves in the back end of this race when some legs are maybe going to be a bit more tired and they can stretch their lead against their competitors. So they're just sitting back and watching the racing unfold at this point, not contending the sprints just yet.
Maggie Coles-Lister from Canada in the black and blue colours, trade team for her. But she's Canadian, strong rider. She has Rijmakers from the Netherlands, confirmation of that previous sprint. Velasco, Larata from Spain, Li Xingwing, and Sevchikova from Czechia in 4th place for the 1 point. Now, a nice little gap between these two. Both riders a fair way down the overall standings. Rijmakers is in 12th place on 56 points, so there's no desperation from Kajihara, Gillespie or Chino to have to chase this down. But the European champ, Anita Stenberg, has decided that she doesn't like that combination out front.
Because if you're a rider wanting to make progress up in these rankings, you don't want riders out the front taking points away from your potential sprint win that you're trying to plan. So you want to bring these riders back so you can yourself have the chance to get the points to try and get closer to those medals.
So the peloton stopped starting a little bit, but the gap is coming down. So each time they've accelerated, they've closed the gap a little bit, and that time it was Bryony Botha. They're putting a big effort. Kira Will from Australia. She doesn't need to close this gap down. She could have just swung up and got out of the way just to save some energy to pick up some more points later on. She's down in 17th place on 29 points. Good experience for an 18-year-old at this level.
Oh, fantastic. She's been riding well all week, to be honest. I've been impressed with how she's handled herself, and she's in amongst an elite field and she's holding her own. And it's great to see. Got a great future with Australian cycling, and she's should be proud of what she's done already.
Well, the Olympic silver medal in the Omnium leads the way. Yumi Kajihara, former world champion as well. So talk about elite level. The best of the best is who she's racing head-to-head against. Martins from Portugal swings up before the next bell. 51 laps to go. And Gillespie versus Kajihara, 2nd and 3rd in the overall standings. 3rd up there as well. So the top 3, Kajihara, Gillespie and Uchino, fighting for this one. Gillespie from Ireland in the green colours on the inside. Yumi Kajihara versus Uchino, and Kajihara gets it this time. So Japan 1st and 2nd with Gillespie 3rd, and that will switch. It does, you can see on the left there. So Uchino goes into the silver medal position with Gillespie now into the bronze.
Yeah, that was really interesting to see that sprint between the top 3, because you could see who's got the fresher legs at the start of this race, who's got that top end speed, who can get those extra points by rolling around the outside in a sprint. And Yumi Kajihara showed that she's got the form, she's got the speed. Where Lara Gillespie put herself in a great position to try and get that sprint, but just got overtaken by the faster legs of Japanese riders.
And they are tied on 106 each, Uchino and Gillespie. So at the moment, if the points were to stay tied like that right down to the last sprint, it will come down to who crosses the line in front of the other. So still a lot of racing to go. 47 laps, double points on the final sprint. But a very comfortable margin now for Yumi.
Yumi Kajihara is just on the wheel of Gillespie, not willing to give her any room. She was just tracking her the whole time. She was on the front, and now they're all the way at the back.
So even if Gillespie was to win sprints, Kajihara's still going to run second or third, right? So the margin's only going to just come down very slowly. She needs a 5-point win with both Uchino and Kajihara not getting any points, and that's going to be really unlikely now with 45 laps to go.
Yeah, she's got a 15-point buffer, and that's 3 sprints, which is quite significant in this race now. So she's just matching and making sure that nothing is going to get out of hand. She covers off her main threats as the Kiwi hits off in the front, puts some pressure on the pace, really leading out and really putting the bunch under pressure with Kira Will in there as well from Australia, and the European champion making a trio, trying to see if they can stretch the bunch to a point where they can try and get a lap, but they don't have too much of a gap at this point.
It's unfortunate for that trio out in front, because if they were able to open up a little bit more of a margin, almost guaranteed there would be some hesitation in amongst the field, but that hasn't happened. So they've all come back together. That was a really strong attack.
It was, and it put a lot of speed into the bunch too, all strung out in a long line. Now they flare up, top of the track, see who's next, wanting to make a move. Do we see come from the bottom of the track from Kazakhstan?
Sultanova it is. We've seen her off the front picking up a 5-point attack sprint earlier, and she's coming around to get the bell. Sechikova from Czechia comes through. Larata from Spain. Big move coming from Velasco up into 3rd position. But Sechikova will hold on for the 5. It's a real tough effort there from Victoria Velasco from Mexico, but she picks up 3 points for second. How does that change things in the overall classification? None of those riders, Velasco was the highest in the overall, sitting in 10th place, so it doesn't really make any movement in terms of the top riders.
And we see the French rider with the fluoro helmet coming through to attack again, put pressure on the bunch, see if they can get a gap on the field. We've got the Gillespie going with it too, so that's an interesting move. The Japanese might need to be wary of that, but again, there's not a huge gap put into the field, but there is a group of 7 riders getting together at the front here to see how well they can work together to put more of a gap into the main bunch. It looks like it might be coming together. The Portuguese riders doing their best to try and bridge the gap to the French.
Well, the top 3 riders were top 3, I was going to say top 4, but Liu from China was not there. So the top 3 riders were in that front group, so really no impetus from them to try and force the pace, and has come back together. 35 laps to go when they come around now. Maria Martins from Portugal, Seitz from Switzerland, and when she looks over her shoulder, she'll notice she has a little bit of a gap back to Zanardi from Italy in the front of the peloton, and she's now trying to duck down, crouch the head down and sneak off the front of the peloton. I have done that kind of thing. A lot of bluff goes on in racing, and you're trying to make it look like you're not pushing hard and you're still going maximum on the pedals. So maybe they don't think I'm trying too hard here, but I'm going to get a gap, and she has started to open it up.
Yeah, she has. She's down in 7th. She's about 50 points off the lead, so the top riders aren't going to be too concerned about this move, but it's certainly getting the attention, and it's improving the pace, I should say, of the bunch. The European champion comes to the front with Kira Will from Australia on her wheel to just cover off a bit and just put a bit of pace into it to make sure the Swiss doesn't completely get the lap super quick. It's really increased the pace here. She's got a great gap, not quite half a lap yet, but she's looking good to take out these sprint points as she's got a commanding lead on the main field.
She will get the 5 points, but this has been a really intriguing big effort from Anita Stenberg. Spent a couple of laps on the front. Can she hold on for the points? I don't think she'll be able to, because Uchino is moving up around the outside. She has Gillespie with her as well. So 5 points going to Elaine Seitz, Uchino, then Gillespie, and then it's Stenberg. That was a huge effort for 1 point from the European champion, but what it has also done was brought the breakaway back.
Yeah, it certainly has. It looks like the the Swiss rider there was just fully committed for those sprint points. Once she'd got them, she swung up to the fence, even with still a decent lead, and was like, okay, I'm going to conserve my legs now. I've got some decent points. Let's reset, get back in the bunch, recover sitting on some wheels for a few laps, and get ready to go again.
So the silver and bronze medal riders in Uchino and Gillespie going head-to-head in that previous sprint, and now Uchino has a 1-point advantage over Gillespie. Kajihara looking very comfortable out on 121 points. She can really pick the moments now. No desperation from her. 3 more sprints to come. 2 sprints for 5 points, and then the final double-point sprint. And Zabelinskaya has gone on the attack. She's a long way down in the overall standing, so they may not pay much attention to Olga. Here's a good opportunity for her to move right back up in the standings. She's down in 21st place, only on 19 points, so no danger at all. You wouldn't expect any of the top riders to be wasting energy chasing her. Miss Irina has decided that she'll have a bit of a go, though. She's joined by Velasco. So 2 riders off the front of the peloton, with Olga Zabelinskaya out in front.
And she's got a solid half-lap lead on the bunch too, but the bunch has increased their pace significantly. We're coming into 4 laps now away from the sprint, and the bunch has really decided to not really sit up and let this rider get this lap easily. They're going to make her really work for it.
So with those other 2 chasers just being caught, they've just eased up a little bit. So advantage goes back to Zabelinskaya out in front. Velasco is the rider on the front of the peloton that has started to increase the pace a little bit again. But Zabelinskaya has a real chance here of gaining a lap. She'll get the 20 points for doing so. She will be able to hold on for this next sprint as well. So there's a chance she can pick up a 25-point gain here.
And this move by the bunch is critical. She would see this, and that's a great time now to make the most distance on the field you can, because they're swung up higher on the track, as you can see here, and she's going the shortest distance possible. She's going as fast as she can to get this lap done now, because she's closing in quick.
Yeah, and the timing was important then, because she hadn't caught the bunch before she got to 21 laps to go. The bell did sound for her, so she can complete this lap, get the 5 points. No problem now. Get to the back of the peloton, Olga. You don't have to hang off the back. You have the 5 points. Now she gets the lap gain as well, 20 points. So there's a 25-point advantage as we race for the scraps. 3, 2, and 1 points that are still on offer. And it's our overall leader, Yumi Kajihara from Japan, that picks up the 3 points. So you can guarantee she is going to come away with the win here. It is all about who is going to get silver and bronze. Uchino was also in the points. Gillespie just missed out. Oh no, Cucino didn't actually. She might have been in 5th place. So status quo for silver and bronze, only 1 point separating Uchino and Gillespie. Kajihara with the 3, she goes to 124 points. Well, this is a great race for the silver, and I'll say great race for the gold because, well, Yumi has been incredibly strong, but it's not really going to be a contest from here on in.
Uchino needs to win the next 2 sprints to just be even on points with Kajihara. So it's all on Uchino to really take it to Kajihara, because Kajihara's in the box seat here as the Kiwi rider heads off the front to try and snatch these points.
But that also means Kajihara can't pick up any points at all in the next 2 sprints, and that's virtually impossible.
Well, that's right. Yeah, she has to come away with no points and Uchino win everything, which is very difficult with the form that Kajihara has shown throughout this whole Omnium competition.
And with 2 sprints remaining, 4 riders off the front, including Bryony Botha, Marit Raymakers, Kira Will, Victoria Velasco. So Mexico, Australia, the Netherlands, and New Zealand, and they are not working together. So Gillespie has seen the desperation. She knows she needs some points to get the silver medal, so she went out after these riders. She was really marked very closely by Uchino, but they didn't work together. There was a real opportunity for these 4 to steal the show.
There was, but they weren't willing to commit to the move. They wanted everyone else to do the work for them, and now they're all back together. with only 2 laps before the next sprint. So it's all to play for here, with only 1 point separating silver and bronze with Uchino and Gillespie. They really need to be watching each other really closely at this point.
Yumi Kajihara is in a comfortable position in the overall standings, but Anita Stenberg, the European champion, she's timed her run into this sprint very well. Aline Seitz from Switzerland in 2nd position, then it's Botha from New Zealand. Sultanova from Kazakhstan will finish 4th. They come across the line in that order. So Stenberg picks up 5 points ahead of Seitz. Botha, she picks up 2. She's down in 7th place. Seitz is in 5th. And with the point she gained then, just check the update, she should put herself up into 4th place now. So good points grab there for Seitz from Switzerland. And there's the black colours of Uchino. She is in a ding-dong battle between herself and Lara Gillespie. And we have 8 laps to go. And there's been an attack, 3 riders off the front, but a really big move has come from Clémence Cheroux from France. Now there's 3 riders off the front. If it stays like this, there's only 2 points to be had from the rest of the field. Now there's the 4th rider that's gone. It's Marit Reimakers from the Netherlands. This is not good for Gillespie. She needs to beat one of these riders off the front if she can get the better of Uchino and get into the silver medal spot.
Gillespie has to get some points in this sprint to try and snatch that silver medal. Otherwise, she'll have to settle for the bronze. There's obviously no threat from 4th, but it's with only 1 point separating 2nd and 3rd. With 4 riders away, that's all the points gone. So unless this bunch can bridge the gap, then it'll stay as is in the standings.
So Yumi Kajihara from Japan, she's content with this. She has a winning margin, not a problem. She knows she's getting the gold medal. It is still a big race for the silver though, and Stenberg has gone out after this group of 4. Again, that's not going to help Gillespie. There's the 4, they're not that cohesive. The front of the peloton is the green jersey from Ireland of Lara Gillespie. So she sensed the danger, but she has Uchino nice and tight, hard on the wheel.
Yeah, Uchino's not going to let Gillespie get away at all. She knows there's only 1 point in it as well, and she's going to be right on Gillespie's wheel this whole final 3 laps left in this points race.
Well, Gillespie trying to catch this group out in front to give herself a chance to get some points, but Uchino's been sitting on the wheel the whole time. So advantage is still with Tsuyaka Uchino. 1 point advantage, and very much so the fresher legs after those couple of laps by Gillespie to bring this group of 4 back.
Yeah, that's right, and I've just noticed Gillespie swung off as well, and now Uchino's in front of Gillespie in 4th place now as the Swiss rider attacks.
Final sprint coming. Here's the last bell. Double points on offer. 10, 6, 4 and 2. Seitz it is that leads into the final lap. Petra Tsefikova from Czechia. Then it's the silver medal rider in Tsuyaka Uchino. She's going to pick up some points regardless of how many she gets. She will get the bronze medal. Tsefikova comes through to get the 10 points on offer for the final sprint. There's a big cheer from the crowd because Li Xingwing came across the line in 4th place to pick up some points for Hong Kong. Everyone's happy to see that happen. Uchino, she gets the silver medal, but that was a dominant show from Yumi Kajihara to win the women's Omnium O outright here tonight. Kajihara ahead of Uchino and Lara Gillespie. She finishes in bronze. They're still up and about here in the crowd for Li Xingwing.
Yeah, it's a great strong finish for her to get up there, give the crowd something to cheer about, and they're stoked, they're very happy, and they're also celebrating quite healthily for the Japanese riders. They respect the strong ride that these 2 riders have performed here in the women's Omnium. It's been quite impressive by these 2, especially Kajihara. She had a dominant ride. She didn't have to do much in that points race to hold on to that lead.
Gold and silver go to Japan in the women's Omnium, the final race of the Track Nations Cup here in Hong Kong, China. Ireland picks up the bronze medal. Kajihara, Uchino and Lara Gillespie from Ireland. They will be the final presentation we see tonight. And that was a hard-fought battle. Congratulations again to Benoit Vertu, the coach of the national program for Japan. A lot of international members of their coaching outfit, and it's fair to be said they have brought them on in leaps and bounds, both endurance and sprint, both programs for the Japanese. They are absolutely on fire.
They sure are. And it's been seen in the past when a country hosts the Olympic Games, they have an immense funding boost to help that happen and all the talent coming through for that. And they reap the benefits in the years to come, as Kajihara absolutely deservedly celebrates that win in the women's Omnium. But yeah, their talent is exceptional, and you can see the bike that they are riding is space age. It is phenomenal up close, the technology that's gone into designing their bike as well.
Tsuyaka Uchino, the silver medalist. Gold and silver for Japan. Wow, they've been so strong. And Lara Gillespie, I mentioned it earlier and yesterday perhaps that the Irish women's team pursuit squad stayed in Australia after the Adelaide Track Nations Cup, and they did compete in the Australian Track Championships. They won the team pursuit, so they got the gold medal. Lara won the scratch race, I think it was, on the first night also. So a couple of gold medals to the Irish. They don't get the Australian champions jersey. That's the first Australian in those races. But the Irish riders really did dominate the women's racing at the Australian National Championships a couple of weeks ago. Elaine Seitz from Switzerland finishes in 4th place. Olivia Balasaita from Lithuania in 5th. It was Liu Jiali from China 6th. Bryony Botha from New Zealand in 7th place. 8th was the European champion Anita Stenberg from Norway. Maria Martins from Portugal in 9th, and rounding out the top 10 was Victoria Velasco from Mexico. They put in such a big effort. I mentioned it so many times, but well, you just have to give them credit where it's due. Japan really are doing a great job, and what a confidence booster. And you can explain this. How good is it? It sounds obvious, how good is it to win? But for the Japanese program overall, both endurance and sprint, to be doing so well in the start of an Olympic year.
Yeah, it just really proves to their whole squad and support staff that they're doing the right thing and their preparations are working. The training methodologies, their periodization, it's all looking good. So if they can repeat this and come up again in Paris in a few months' time, with the form that they have here, it's going to be definitely impressive to watch their achievements they can pull out on the boards of the Paris Velodrome, because they are looking super strong and they've really created some momentum heading into this next preparation. They're full of confidence, they've got great results at this World Cup, and they've deserved every one of them because they're hard fought, they've dominated, and they've really shown that they are a force to be reckoned with now.
It'll be interesting to see how the team from the Netherlands for the men's sprint group, who you're racing head-to-head against, how they fight back from what has been a terrible weekend for them by their standards. We'll see them in Milton in Canada, no doubt. But time for the presentation now, the victory ceremony for the women's Keirin. And the world champion in the sprint. Doing very well here in the Keirin to get the gold medal. Former world Keirin champion in Emma Hinza picked up silver, and a solid ride by Alina Litsenko. So a bronze medal for her. Smart racing in the second round to get onto the wheel of Emma Hinza and basically drag the easy ride, as easy as it can be, in inverted commas, for her to get herself into the final, and then backing it up with a bronze medal. So Alina Litsenko, brilliant ride from her. Emma Hinza, the former Keirin world champion, silver medal for Germany. But the dominant sprinter on the world stage at the moment, 21-year-old from Great Britain, Emma Finucane, world sprint champ, now the Keirin title winner here in Hong Kong. At 21, still hasn't hit her prime. It's a long way to come. It must be daunting for all these other sprinters.
Yeah, she's definitely on the upward trajectory. Heading into an Olympic year is very encouraging for the Great British squad, especially the women's sprint that have such depth. And she's shown her dominance as she accepts her ding-dong gift. Little flight pillow to fly back to GB with to celebrate her phenomenal Keirin win that she had tonight.
Finucane, Hinza and Litsenko. Now, I do know a couple of years ago that the British women's sprint team program, they were struggling a little bit, and they've had to put in a lot of effort in these last couple of years, and a lot of individual effort for them to come together and do some training, sort of slightly outside of the national program, and then eventually accepted within it as a group, collectively. And look at the results. They are really strong in the team sprint as well, winning gold on the first night, and then backing it up with Emma's individual performances here.
Yeah, they've really shown some dominance in that team event. They've got real depth, and it's showing they're pushing each other, and it's just making Emma faster and faster by the looks of it, because she is looking strong out there.
3 gold medals for Emma Finucane this weekend, 3 events. Perfect score, not bad. Let's hear from our new champion in the Keirin, her 3rd gold medal, Emma Finucane from Great Britain.
Yeah, it feels amazing. This is my first gold in a Keirin event at this stage, so yeah, it was such an interesting race. Like, I loved just riding my bike and getting stuck in, and yeah, to come away with a win in team sprint and Keirin is amazing, and I just can't believe it. And yeah, it puts us, like, as GB women, in a good step forward for the Olympics this year, so yeah, really, really proud. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Lovely young lady, and she is in a hurry. Paris Olympic Games, not too far away. She must be full of confidence. The men's sprint presentation now. Nicholas Paul, the world record holder, with the bronze medal, getting the better of Lee Hoffman from Australia in the race for bronze. He had a crash yesterday in the Keirin, so great to see him fight back from that. It really hurts at those speeds, as you know, to hit these hard boards. Matthew Richardson with another medal at Nations Cup level, silver for him here in the sprint, as he got in Adelaide a month ago. And that was again to this man, Keirin Ota from Japan. Back-to-back Track Nations Cup sprint victories. He won the Keirin last night as well. He'll have some excess baggage when he heads back to Japan.
Yeah, great men's sprint competition. Amazing final with it going down to the best of 3 against Keirin Ota and Matthew Richardson. Both guys leaving everything out there, and Keirin Ota coming out on top with a really strong ride.
Quick question with the sprinters up there, and you being one of them, having competed the last couple of days here, heading towards Paris. What's the program for a lot of the riders now? What will they do? Are they in heavy training and continue, or you have a little bit of a rest and then keep going, or what's the program now for the next, say, month or so?
Yeah, so after a big competition like this, you do need a bit of recovery. So there might be some downtime before really starting to get into the final preparations for the Olympics. It's a really critical phase these next few months, so it's all about making sure you maximise your training to really be in your best form at the Olympics. You can come up a little bit for competitions like this, but mainly our training is all based around the Olympics to make sure that we put our best foot forward for our country at the biggest stage that we have. So yeah, it'll be maybe a little bit of a break for most people. Some people may be training through, you never really know. So it's all about getting into that next phase of training relatively soon.
And that in itself is fascinating, isn't it? Because you have to manage, and you have to have good people around you to manage individual athletes' expectations depending on what type of training and workload they're coming into this kind of competition. Because if you have been training heavily, going to the gym, still doing lots of heavy weights, and then don't achieve the results that you were perhaps expecting at this level, that can be a real psychological blow. So you've got to be able to manage those expectations as well once you come through these events.
Yeah, that's right. Each level of competition we have certain expectations for, and we have certain levels of preparation for as well, in terms of how fast we expect to go and how much training we take out to freshen up for events like this. So it's a real balancing game to try and get some good performances, be in a condition that's good enough to really be at the top end, to really get that beneficial racing experience of these things, but not put yourself back a step with the preparation that's actually really needed for when it counts in Paris.
And we're about to have the women's Omnium victory ceremony, and being track endurance, this particular event, and we certainly see that with Aaron Gate and some of the riders. I know Aaron Gate just raced the Tour of Taiwan, I think, last week, and then came here to much success. So a lot of the endurance riders, they get the opportunity to go back and do road racing, which keeps them motivation in another way, just to keep performing in other events. It's different for the pure sprinters, because you don't go to other competitions, do you? You just go back to the grind.
That's right. I'd probably compare them going to the road as us just going back to the gym.
Yeah.
They maintain their aerobic base on the road, and us sprinters, we go back into the gym and maintain our strength base by lifting heavy things up and down many times. Every day's a leg day for a sprinter, and yeah, that's our main way of maintaining and building our strength. And it's two completely different ways of going about it, two different athletes. We're both cyclists, but completely different worlds, experience completely different things on the same bike.
And I'm not a small man, but you can't see it obviously, but Matthew Gleitz's thigh beside mine, it's twice the size of mine. There's a lot more heavy things that he's lifted in his time on the planet compared to me, that is for sure. The final presentation here in Hong Kong, China, the women's Omnium, after the dramatic ending with the points race, but it was a commanding performance throughout by Yumi Kachihara from Japan, the former world champ.
The medals will be presented by Mr. Wong Tak Sung, SANMH Commissioner for Sport.
And I really am pleased for the Irish track cycling program. They've had some fantastic professional riders on the road over the years, but in more recent times, the women's team pursuit group have really come together to be impressive on the world stage. They won a bronze medal at the European Championships in 2021, and they continue to perform. Lara Gillespie picking up the bronze medal here in Hong Kong. So congratulations. Talk about the Japanese program. Congratulations to the Irish as well for what they are doing.
Yeah, it's fantastic to see countries improve from years of not too much success to then really build a base and get a really good group of people around, good support systems to then breed success like the Irish are really enjoying at the moment.
So Yako Uchino with the bronze medal position for Japan, but on the top step of the podium yet again in an international competition, Yumi Kachihara from Japan. 124 points in the end. She didn't have to fight for too many sprints throughout the points race because of commanding lead that she had. And 11 points was the margin in the end over Uchino.
For the last time on this championships, please show your appreciation.
Japan and Ireland finishing off the final competition here in Hong Kong. Second round of the UCI Track Nations Cup. Milton in Canada is where they'll be heading to next. Well, I say all, not all of them. These three Nations Cups are vital in terms of collecting the points required to get allocations for the Olympic Games. The countries and the riders that perhaps are already comfortably qualified may not head to Canada. Those that are on the fringe, on the cusp of missing out, will desperately be chasing points in Canada.
Absolutely. There's three Nations Cups. Your best two results from those three count towards your Olympic qualification. So if you need to improve on a result, you will definitely know now after this World Cup what the standings are, and those people right on the cusp of qualifying or not will know exactly what they need to do, how many points they need, what result they will have to get in Milton in order to qualify their spot in Paris.
The Continental Championships, so the European Champs, the Oceania Championships, Asian Championships, Pan Americans, they also have points allocated to them. Not as much as Track Nation Cups or World Championships. The World Championships last year, big one in Glasgow, a lot of points. Anyone that won there was almost guaranteed a spot at the Olympics this year. So that was, and I think we might be able to go down to the centre of the track again and talk to another one of our champions from tonight. Not too far away.
Thank you for support. I last one 2 years ago, so long time no see. I'm so happy. I'm glad.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay.
Another gold medal to Yumi Kachihara. She's going to be strong in Paris at the Olympic Games. Now, we didn't have Katie Archibald or Nia Evans, Eleanor Barker, the British team, who we know super strong, so they'll be very competitive at the Olympics. But Kajihara doing everything, going in the right direction.
And she's always been up there. She's been a consistent performer in the Omnium. She's just getting stronger as well. So she's really up there, even though, yes, you don't have every single big hitter of the field here in Hong Kong. It's still a very strong field. And for her to show a dominant performance like that and her teammate being right behind her, Japan are in a really good position to be right in there with medal contention at the Olympics.
Jennifer Valente from the USA, another one to throw in the mix in terms of the Omnium itself. Well, fantastic venue here in Hong Kong. The Track Nations Cup, what a splendid 3 days of racing it has been. For Matthew Glazer, first time in commentary for you for today. Thanks for popping in last minute. When I found out that you weren't doing the sprint today, I thought, why not come up and talk through it? So thank you so much for your input. It was very insightful.
Yeah, thanks for the invite. It was great to see the competition from this perspective and have a good chat with you about it. And yeah, enjoyed the results. Fantastic racing in this World Cup, and it's great to see so many riders doing so well and get a little bit of a glimpse as to what we may see come the Olympics.
Absolutely. Good luck to the riders that are heading to the final Nations Cup round in Milton, Canada. And thank you to everyone that's tuned in around the world. It's been a fantastic 3 days of racing. We look forward to the next Track Nations Cup that's coming up next month. Good night.